Will Smith and Chris Rock share a moment at the Oscars. So we'll talk just a bit about what happened there. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that because I think that story was a major distraction to what happened with the regime change notion. I'm willing to bet that there are not a lot of people on the Monday morning news that are talking about that right now, but we will talk just a bit about that. And as mentioned, Joe Biden talks about a regime change in Russia. And then the White House staff comes back to tell you that it definitely wasn't a regime change. So we will talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Clarence Thomas is being urged to recuse himself from election cases by Amy Klobuchar and ask for his impeachment by Ilhan Omar because of a text that was a QAnon LARP coming out of his wife going to Mark Meadows on January 6th, right before the Selfie Fest. And Pelosi's husband buys $2 million worth of Tesla stock. Does that mean it's time for you to do the same? It's not official financial advice. We will talk just a bit about that as well. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. I always say we've got a lot to get to over there. I counted before we got started. There are 60 tabs on the top this morning. 60. That's a whole bunch. There's a bunch of news. And, you know, it probably wouldn't have been so bad, especially for a Monday, had it not been for Biden's big remarks over in Ukraine, which completely changed the tone and tenor of the show that I had set up prepared to go for Monday. And then on top of that, right before I got up from my computer and went to bed, because, you know, I just did a last little scope over Twitter before I turned over and fell asleep. Will Smith and Chris Rock did this thing. So, of course, especially since that's going to be the big mainstream news coming up this morning, because nobody wants to talk about what happened in Warsaw over the weekend, we got to talk about that too. So we're going to get that out of the way as soon as we're done with finance. I am looking forward to the memes, and I've already seen a bunch of them. That's actually, it wasn't that I'd done the scope of Twitter looking for more news before I went to bed. It's that I did there and I was looking at my favorite meme accounts and I started to see the memes of Chris Rock getting slapped by Will Smith. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then, you know, a topical little dig and, oh, that. So we will get into that. One other thing that I do need to touch base on with you guys before we get started, and this is a little bit of something that's happening in the community. I did have to do a ban. My mods have been made. I'm not going to say the name of who it is, obviously, but you know, I never ban. That's the thing with me. You can get away with a lot of stuff in my servers. Pretty much the only way to get instantly banned, no questions, no appeals, is to dox somebody, and that includes yourself. So that is what happened. The situation has been taken care of. My mods are made abreast of the situation. And I may have even been more lenient and willing to think and sit back and wait till the person calmed down a little bit and have the conversation with them. But, you know, that's one of the things is if I am on a deserted island somewhere with Ashley Tisdale, and one of my mods has to bring me back to reality to ask if he can take punitive action against somebody who is a repeat offender, and this is not the first time this person has done it, that person's likely not going to get any leniency. I'm just saying. But that's all the sad news. We got to get into the... You know what? Let's just get into the news, because I can't say happy news off of this. But before we do that, head on over, go and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. Turnsofpagesproductions.com is going to be, once we get launched, your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We are getting set up, ready to go, so we can carry great programs such as the Daily Ignoramus, The Porch Boys, the R-rated conservative. A new upcoming project with Britt and Sean Hickman. And who am I forgetting? I think I got them all, but I only have 4. I think. Yeah, I can't. Wow. I apparently didn't get enough sleep last night because I usually go through the speech effortlessly here, but go check that out. Once we get launched, we are looking at coming out and getting you guys some news and some culture from people who are just like you. People who've had to make some of the same decisions that you guys have. That's been my dream since the beginning, to get a news site out there for people. To get their news from people who are sitting here in their bedrooms or living rooms in a t-shirt, not people who are sitting out there who are wearing a suit that costs more than your house. People who have had to make the same decisions. We're going to look into getting some writing. We've got 7 great programs ready to go, primed up, ready to get started. We just need to raise a little bit of money to come back out and get all of this going to go and help out. So go and check that out. We've got a Give, Send, Go ready to go. That is going to be released as soon as we get the name docs out. That's going to be happening probably next couple weeks here. I got to touch base with Brian and see when he's ready to go with that, what he's ready to do, and give him an idea what it is that we're planning to do over here, so he knows what questions to ask. But go check out Brian Nichols too, for that matter. But we've got the Give, Send, Go, which requires, of course, having your government name up front. But go check that out. Turns of Pages 101 is going to be the extension. GiveSendGo.com/Turns of Pages 101. Help us out. Help us get this up off the ground so we can help you get the news from people who are, again, much more like you. So go check that out. All right, let's get into the finance. Starting with the Dow. The Dow shot up early on Friday. Then it kind of tumbled back down below the average, and then it came back up. It was a little bit of a whipsaw through the rest of the day, coming back up, going back down again, and then right at the end of the day, just shooting itself right back up. So we'll talk just a bit about what happened there. I'm sure IBD will let us in on some of that, and also some of the things to expect coming into Monday's trading day. So definitely go and check that out. Looking at your Bitcoin. Bitcoin is on the rise over the last 24 hours, up above its previous close, up to $484 up to $47,366 and 20 US cents per coin. That is up 1% day over day. And again, we're seeing some action in there. It came up to about the same point that it's at, dropped off, came back up, dropped off, came back up again, and that's just in a 24-hour period. So we will continue to watch and see where that goes. I kind of hope that my Shiba comes back, but I'm not having any faith. I think that was just a $20 bill that I could afford to lose at this point, or at least $13 worth of it, but you know, it happens sometimes. I did okay with the Doge, but the Shiba, not so much. But we'll see what happens with that. All right, your scrap metal prices, some of your hard assets. Copper is up, steel is up, aluminum is up. Looking at your individual plays, copper is on the rise in the green all the way across the board, including brass and brass shells. Iron and steel are on the rise, including stainless. Aluminum is completely on the rise as well, all the way across. Looking in at some of your individual plays, electric motors, ballast, lead, and car and truck batteries are up. The catalytic converter market is down, except for small foreign cats. Large foreign cat, regular domestic cat, large GM cat, and small GM cat are all 4 down, but small foreign cat is up. Compressors are up, alternators are up, carbide is up, hard drives are up, motherboards are up. But power supplies, low-grade boards, and PC towers are all down. So it looks like it is a seller's market for metal right now. It looks like industry is going to start rolling and cranking back up here, and they're looking for the materials, raw or otherwise, to come back out and get things started. So go assess what it is that you have around your home for scrap metal and make the appropriate adjustment. Do remember, these are national averages, and your individual markets may reflect differently on the price of the metals that you have. All right, let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow futures rise, oil prices tumble, Tesla jumps on stock split plan. From Ed Carson. Dow futures rose slightly Monday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. Apple stock fell slightly on a report that it might cut iPhone output, while Tesla jumped yet again as it plans another stock split, despite a Shanghai production halt. The stock market rally continued to make gains last week, with a number of leading stocks flashing a buy signal. The stock market rally has shown resilience in the face of rising crude prices, oil prices, and surging treasury yields. That is, so far. But don't be complacent. A relentless rise in treasury yields is hard for the stock market to shrug off indefinitely, especially growth names. A modest pullback would be healthy for the major indices, and leading stocks, Apple and especially Tesla, could use a rest. But while Apple shares may get one on Monday, that doesn't appear to be in the cards for Tesla. A handle would also be constructive for Nvidia, which has raced higher in the past couple weeks. Marriott Worldwide has a handle, but it could use a longer base. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals has forged a high handle as it trades in a buy zone, offering a second chance or add-on buying opportunity. JB Hunt pulled back below a buy point, but it did find support at a point. Looking in your EV markets, XPeng reported a smaller than expected Q4 loss and forecast Q1 deliveries of 33,500 to 34,000, implying March deliveries of around 14,600. China EV rival NIO, which has reported mixed results late Thursday, begins deliveries of its luxury EV sedan, the ET7, on Monday as well. That's part of a busy week for China EV makers, with March deliveries also on tap. And I'm always curious when we see this, because, we don't have these here. So this is all internal, as far as I know, to China. I've never seen a NIO or an XPeng anywhere. I don't know if they sell them under a different manufacturer over here or what the story is, but IBD sure loves to talk about what's happening over there and what they're doing with that. Tesla could release global first quarter deliveries and production figures late last week as well. XPeng and NIO rose modestly early Monday. On Friday, both sold off hard, partly due to NIO results and guidance, but also reflected revived delisting concerns for U.S.-listed Chinese stocks generally. For the Russia-Ukraine invasion, Russia's Ukraine invasion has stalled in much of the country, with Ukrainian forces pushing back Russian troops further from Kiev, reclaim some territory around Kharkiv and in the east, and closing in on Kherson, a key port city in the south. Russia continues to try and snuff out the final resistance and bombed out Mariupol, with thousands of civilians dead. Russia may be refocusing its Ukraine invasion on establishing a land bridge from Crimea along Ukraine's southeastern coast. President Biden on Saturday said in Poland that President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. The White House quickly walked that back. And we will be talking about that individually later on in the program. On the futures here, Tesla, JB Hunt, and Nvidia are on the IBD leaderboard. Tesla, Regeneron, Nvidia, and JB Hunt are on the IBD 50. On the futures, Dow futures rose a fraction versus fair value, pairing slim gains in the past few minutes. S&P 500 futures climbed a fraction, and NASDAQ futures were up 0.1%. Tesla is providing a big boost to NASDAQ, with Apple a modest drag. Crude oil prices tumbled 5%, which hopefully that means, coming into the travel season, that this is not going to be a temporary thing, although I believe this is going to be temporary because this is going to be another thing of strategic reserves, so we'll get it for like 3 weeks. But hopefully this means that we can get some relief coming out of here and people can go out and start doing commerce and travel and boost the economy back up. As much as I don't want to see a success out of the Biden admin, I want to see relief for the American people more. You guys know that. You know that about me. The 10-year Treasury yield fell 4 basis points to 2.46%, which means that it was at 2.5% over the weekend. The 2-year yield rose to 2.32%, cutting the yield spread to just 14 basis points. President Brandon proposed new taxes on the wealthiest 20,000 households. It would include a big new levy and tax on unrealized capital gains, which tells me that he just still wants to destroy the economy. We'll be talking about that later. Biden's plan would also tax stock buybacks. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So if you thought that the economy was going to be a mess before, just these last couple things right here are telling me that we're just getting started. So we'll continue to watch that and see where that goes. Let's briefly grab one from CNBC, and then we will get into the big news of the day. Futures are flat as a big week of economic data kicks off. From Maggie Fitzgerald and Tanaya Mahil, stock futures were steady Monday morning as a week filled with key economic reports kicked off, and investors continue to keep a close eye on the Federal Reserve's planned interest rate hikes. Futures tied to the Dow fell 3 points, while the S&P rose 0.1% and NASDAQ added 0.1%, and those are all up as of the IBD article being released. And keep in mind that this article came out at about, I would say, 6 o'clock last night. Shares of Tesla popped more than 5% in pre-market on news it wants to split its stock so it can pay a stock dividend to shareholders. The SEC filing said Tesla will ask its annual shareholders meeting for an increase in the number of authorized shares of common stock in order to enable a stock split of the company's common stock in form of stock dividend. The Dow and the S&P rose on Friday to close out their second consecutive winning week, just barely. The Dow gained 153 points, or 0.4%. The S&P advanced 0.5% and has more than erased its losses since Russia invaded Ukraine in late February. Meanwhile, the NASDAQ dipped 0.2%, but still finished the week in the green. Investors continue to keep a close eye on the Fed. Wall Street firms from Goldman Sachs to Bank of America penciled in half-point hikes in the future Fed meetings this year after the central bank's Jerome Powell vowed to be tough on inflation and said rate increases would become more aggressive if necessary, which will affect you as the end user. Just keep in mind, the monetary policy that's coming from the government, it's not going to affect the rich people. They'll just sell off another yacht or buy another yacht that will increase in value. It's going to be you who needs to go back and take a mortgage, who needs to go back and take a loan to buy a new car, a new truck, or it's you who wants to go buy that motorcycle for the first time. Now that your wife has finally said, hey, we need something that'll be a little bit easier on gas, and you're like, hey, I want to buy that motorcycle. So, a lot of stuff happening there. Investors are looking forward to the job openings and labor turnover survey, or JOLTS, this week. The JOLTS report is one set of employment data that the Federal Reserve is watching closely as it tightens monetary policy. ADP will also release its private payrolls data ahead of the main show, the closely watched monthly jobs report, on Friday. So, a lot of stuff to see here. I'm not sure where the JOLTS is going to go. I mean, I see that there are a lot of people that are going back to work, they're getting off unemployment, but it seems that they're going back into as we always see. Every time we see a jobs report, they're not going into manufacturing, engineering, banking, or anything like that. They're going into retail, restaurant, stuff like that. Low-paying jobs. And this is, I mean, some of the stuff we saw in the Great Recession, too. Obama was in the same, well, I created all these jobs. But look at how many more people are going back to work. They're going back to work as waitstaff at $2.32 an hour, plus tips. At a time where not a lot of people can afford to tip. But anyway, we can't stay forever on this. We still have 55 tabs to get through. I think maybe less than that, but we got to get through all this here. So strap yourselves in, get ready, and we are going to start with what happened at the Oscars last night, which blows my mind that I'm talking about the Oscars, by the way. Because I don't watch the Oscars. I don't have network TV. I don't give a fuck about these rich people coming in and patting each other on the back and saying, well, it is so wonderful of what you have done over here. But you guys have made enough memes. And again, this is going to be the thing that's talked about around the mainstream media throughout the day to keep you from talking about what happened in Warsaw on Saturday. So let's go ahead and let's talk about what happened here. Will Smith hit Chris Rock on Oscars telecast. And we're just going to jump right into it and watch this before we do anything else.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
ウィル・スミスにやられました。
Wow, dude. It was a G.I. Jane joke.
G.I. ジェーンのジョークだったんで。
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television.
That wasn't even close to the greatest night in the history of television, by the way. I want to go watch that again, and we might just slip back into this a couple times, because I honestly, on first glance, and this is, by the way, this is the first time I'm actually seeing this slap. I've seen the memes and everything, but I'm going to tell you right now, this looks like the fake wrestling slap. And as a WWE fan, throughout a large part of my life, I've seen this kind of slap a lot. Let's have a look at this again. It's back up to here, I think. Uh-oh, can we not back up? Is that not allowed? Oh shit, did I break it? I might have broke it. Or I'm having connectivity issues.
Jada,
There we go.
I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
And, I mean, you see, first things first, you see Will laughing down there. It doesn't look like it's that bad.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard.
All right, let's watch. Let's watch closely. See what happens here.
Oh, wow.
Dude, no.
That was a nice one. Okay. All right.
Yeah, he's got a smile on his face. He's giggling. Tell me this wasn't staged. Yeah, you can see the stern look on Jada's face.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow.
I don't know. What do you guys think? 0 in the chat for real, 1 in the chat for fake. But I'm looking at this, and really, honestly, I'm sorry. As much WWE as I've watched, I can't buy that one. I'm sorry. Will was down in the audience. He was giggling, and then all of a sudden he comes back and watches up, and now this is what the world is talking about. So that's where that goes. Let's read a little bit. Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head, which did not appear to go over well with her husband Will Smith. While presenting the award for Best Documentary, Rock joked, "Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it." The camera cut to Pinkett Smith, who rolled her eyes as she sat next to Smith. "That was a nice one," Rock said, appearing to respond to the joke, not going over well. Pinkett Smith has been open about her struggle with alopecia, an autoimmune disorder that leads to hair loss. Rock then said, and laughed as Smith walked towards him on stage and slapped Rock in the face. According to CNN reporter Stephanie Elam, who was in the audience, she could hear Rock getting hit. Smith said twice during the incident, according to Elam, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth." Rock responded, "Oh wow." For viewers at home, censors muted the verbal part of the exchange between Rock and Smith. The theater went silent and Rock said, That was the greatest night in the history of television. Rock declined to press charges, according to the LAPD. CNN has reached out to Smith's publicist for comment. Sean Combs took to the stage moments later and told Smith and Rock that they would settle things like family later. Roughly 40 minutes after the incident, Smith returned to the stage to accept the Oscar for Best Actor and apologized to the Academy and his fellow nominees for the incident, but did not mention Rock by name. He cheerfully accepted the award for his role as Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena Williams, in the film King Richard. Smith said Williams was a fierce defender of his family. Smith said, "I know to do what we do, you gotta be able to take abuse and have people talk about you. In this business, you gotta have people disrespecting you, and you gotta smile and pretend that it's okay." Smith also talked about being a protector and thanked the tennis legends and their family. Smith shared that prior to his win, fellow nominee Denzel Washington shared some wisdom with him. "At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you." Smith ended saying he hopes the Academy welcomes him back, which we'll talk just about that, bit about that for a moment. Let's go on here to some of the other speculations that's going on about this. From the New York Post, could Will Smith lose his Oscar? Explaining the Academy's code of conduct. If this is really, probably could, because you've come up here and challenged the flow of a show that has been planned for 7.5 months with thousands upon thousands of people spending millions of dollars to make sure everything is perfect. Yeah, he probably could. Will Smith may be asked to hand back his Best Actor statuette after following his live onstage assault of Chris Rock's, industry insiders told the Post. The Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, which handed out awards on Sunday at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, has strict guidelines on its code of conduct. One highly placed Hollywood source told the Post after the incident, "It's basically assault. Everyone is just so shocked in the room. It was so uncomfortable." I think Will would not want to give his Oscar back, but who knows what will happen now, the insider said. Meanwhile, the Academy cryptically announced from its official Twitter account, "The Academy does not condone violence in any form. Tonight we are delighted to celebrate the 94th Academy Awards winners, who deserve this moment of recognition from their peers and movie lovers." Smith was seen laughing and posing with photos following his win, as industry bigwigs like Judd Apatow took aim. Knocked Up director Apatow was highly critical of Smith in a now-deleted tweet. "He could have killed him. No, he couldn't. Even if that was a real slap, that was not a deadly slap. That was an open palm across the face. You know, before they had child punishment laws, that was how we got punished. For directing a bad word at our sibling. Maybe not with quite that much force, again, if that was real. They've heard a million jokes about them in the past 3 decades. They are not freshmen in the world of Hollywood comedy. He lost his mind. TV comic Fortune Feemster tweeted, "Someone in the audience charged the stage on Friday night during my opener set and attempted to throw the speaker, started taking swings at people, trying to stop her, and pushed down a security guard. It's scary times, so no, I don't find someone getting hit on stage amusing." Again, if it's real, he probably will be. They probably will ask him to give back his award. Rightfully. But, again, I question the validity of this whole thing. From NBC4 out of Washington, Will Smith cheerfully apologized to the Academy in Best Actor win in a speech, "Love will make you do crazy things." No author given. The Fresh Prince became the king and finally won his Oscar, but in a more dramatic moment than imagined. Will Smith took home his first Academy Award on Sunday night for playing Richard Williams, father and tennis mentor to Venus and Serena Williams in King Richard. I didn't even know that movie existed, first and foremost. I didn't know they were making a movie about Venus and Serena's father. Take that for what it is. Smith spoke shortly after a shocking onstage confrontation with Chris Rock, who made a crack at his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. Will noted in tears that Richard Williams was also fiercely protective of his family. "I want to be a vessel for love," he said. He apologized to the Academy and fellow nominees. "This is a beautiful moment," he said. "Art imitates life." Alright. We can actually see the speech, I think, in this CNN article. Yes. Let's listen to what it is he had to say.
In this time in my life, in this moment, I am overwhelmed by what God is calling on me to do and be in this world. And I know to do what we do, you got to be able to take abuse. You got to be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay. Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father, just like they said. I look like crazy father, just like they said about Richard.
And the Oscar for Best Performance by Male Actor goes to Will Smith for playing deranged Will Smith. Let's keep going. Some congressional news, because of course all of these people have to come back and weigh in. From NBC, Reps Ayanna Pressley and Jamal Bowman tweet, then delete defense of Will Smith's Oscar slap. From Rebecca Shabbat, Ayanna Pressley and Jamal Bowman posted and deleted tweets Sunday night that seemed to defend actor Will Smith for slapping comedian Chris Rock at the Oscars. Screenshots of the tweets published by several news outlets, and neither member of Congress offered up a follow-up explanation as for why they deleted them. Alopecia Nation stand up, thank you, Will Smith, tweeted Presley. Shout out to all the husbands who defend their wives living with alopecia in the face of daily ignorance and insults. Presley added, women with baldies are for real men only. Boys need not apply. The lawmaker publicly revealed in January 2020 that she has alopecia areata, a condition that results in the loss of hair on the scalp and elsewhere. Her tweet Sunday includes a photo of her bald with her husband. A reporter also captured what Bowman tweeted, then deleted, which said, teachable moment. Don't joke about black women's hair. The tweets came after Smith slapped Rock at the 94th Academy Awards Sunday night after the comedian joked about the actor's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, who revealed her alopecia diagnosis in 2018. Smith walked up on the stage from the audience at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles and hit Rock. Then the sound cut out of the U.S. broadcast after returning to a seat. Smith responded to Rock's comment of the assault, appearing to shout an obscenity and telling the comedian not to speak about his wife. I believe it was, "You keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!" Yeah. I don't know why Congress had to get involved in this, and I don't know why NBC called it news, but it was newsworthy enough to say it, so it was newsworthy enough for us to touch on. From CNN, Chris Rock is not pressing charges against Will Smith for the Oscar slap. From Toyin Owolseji, Chris Rock will not be pressing charges against Will Smith following their onstage altercation at this year's Oscar, the LAPD said. Review. Another part of the reason I think this might be staged. Because now they're going to go back and be best friends again. It's just like WWE. They're going to go out, there's going to be the slap, there's going to be the hit, they're going to call each other names, they're going to spew out obscenities at each other, and in the locker room they're going to go back out and grab each other's asses. Daily Wire. So that's what's happened, by the way, because now we're actually going to move on for just a second, touch on a couple other things from the Oscars last night. That's what happened with Chris Rock and Will Smith. I don't know. Again, I think a lot of this might have been an attempt for a distraction against what happened with Biden and his regime change call, but that's what we see off of that. But, I mean, that wasn't the only piece of controversy out of the Oscars, because, of course, what's going to happen on Oscars night? After Florida passes the evil Don't Say Gay bill. Well, all of Hollywood's going to tell us how gay they actually are. At length. Whether you want to hear it or not. Straight from the Daily Wire. Wanda Sykes opened Oscars announcement, announcing to people in Florida, "We gonna have a gay night!" From Katie Jerkovich. Yep, I've got some here. Wanda Sykes opened the 94th Academy Awards show Sunday, announcing that they were going to have a great night, then sending a message to the people of Florida that they were going to have a gay night. During the opening monologue at the Oscars, the 58-year-old co-host of the show stood next to the other two hosts, Amy Schumer and Regina Hall, which that should right there be your indication that the Oscars is completely useless right now, because your opening actors, your opening announcers are Wanda Sykes and Amy Schumer, who are stand-up comedians that haven't had a decent special in 20 years, and Regina Hall, who I have no idea who that even is. And cracked a few jokes about the night's nominees before remarking on Florida's HB 1557, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. "We're going to have a great night tonight, and for you people in Florida, we're going to have a gay night." Her co-host then started dancing around and saying gay, 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 gay over and over again. What is this, an episode of the Porch Boys? One person cracking bad jokes and the co-host coming out and slinging slurs? What the hell is this? Let's see. That's some of the outside. Do we have a video of the opening monologue? Apparently not. But yeah, that... I know who two of the hosts are. Alright, and the last one. The last two, I'm sorry. From Sean Penn. From NBC News. Sean Penn says he'll destroy his own Oscar if Ukraine's Zelensky isn't allowed to speak during a broadcast. So stunning, so brave. Look at him, Sean Penn. They don't give a fuck about these awards. These people don't give a goddamn about these awards. If you're that eager to go do something, I will go buy a Ken doll and paint it gold and glue it to a piece of black plastic and say, "Here, now stop talking, please." Penn said it would be the most obscene moment in Hollywood history if Zelensky isn't allowed to speak. Yeah, and apparently they were talking about bringing Zelensky out to talk during the Oscars, which... You've spoken in front of Congress. What is the point of speaking in front of a bunch of prissy rich bitches who are just being supportive of you because they're being told that that's the only way to keep the Democrats in power, who are going to look the other way once they try to implement socialism and only give it out to the little people. And furthermore, from The Hill, and this, I promise, is going to be the last one on the Academy Awards. Global community can do more to help Ukraine, from Judy Kurtz. The Oscars telecast shared a pro-Ukraine message during the awards because of course they did. On Sunday, saying the global community can do more to help the country amid Russia's invasion. The 94th Annual Academy Awards came to a halt for a moment of silence in what was described as a display of unity with Ukrainians since Russian President Vladimir Putin's military offensive began a month ago. We'd like to have a moment of silence to show our support for the people of Ukraine currently facing invasion, conflict and prejudice within their own borders, the message aired on the show read. While film is an important avenue for us to express our humanity in times of conflict, the reality is millions of families in Ukraine need food, medical care, clean water, and emergency services. Resources are scarce, and we, collectively as a global community, can do more, the words displayed on the screen read. As we asked you to support Ukraine in any way you are able, the message said, along with the hashtag #StandWithUkraine. The show of support came after former 70s show actor Mila Kunis, who was born in Ukraine and has raised millions for aid and efforts along with her husband, actor Ashton Kutcher, delivered a message seemingly aimed at addressing the conflict in Ukraine without naming the country. Do we have a video? We don't have a video. While film is an important avenue for us to express our humanity in times of conflict, the reality is millions of families in Ukraine need food, medical care, clean water, and emergency services. Resources are scarce, and we, collectively as a global community, can do more, the words displayed on screen said. Which, absolutely. Mila and Ashton. Mila, do more. You're doing fantastic. You are doing private charity without using the government gun to go take resources away from people that don't want to come back and support. Absolutely, I support this. And that's the same thing with these rich Hollywood actors. The globe can do more. Let's go do more. Okay. Open up some of the rooms in those big 25-room mansions that you guys all have in Beverly Hills and take in some of the refugees. How many people can you fit in your mansions, on your properties? Hey, you could get a contractor out and build a guest house and put more of them, because a lot of you guys have acreage alone on top of your big mansions. Those of you who are in the top tiers of society, I appreciate the private charity avenue of it. I appreciate the avenue of trying to get this done without getting the government involved. But you're not going to stand there and tell me what to do with my money if you're not shelling out an equal percentage of what you're calling for me to do, of your money and your resources to do so. So, there's your Oscars in a nutshell. What do we do? 25 minutes of that? Alright, let's move on. Let's go talk about something else here. So, as the title card suggests, the Bush-ite foreign policy is back. Regime change for somebody that we don't like, and somebody who has been propagandized to, or against rather, for 5 years. Putin is the root of all evil. He installed the evil Donald Trump, and now he's attacking the evil Ukrainians, who we didn't like until recently. And we are going to spend some time on this. We might spend the rest of the time until 9 o'clock talking about this, because this is big. This would have been top story if it hadn't been for Chris Rock and Will Smith doing their stage little stunt. But let's listen. And first, before we get into anything else, we will listen to the words themselves. Our friends over at NPR are here to tell us, speaking in Warsaw, Poland on Saturday, President Biden said of Russian President Vladimir Putin, "For God's sakes, this man can't remain in power." Shortly after Biden spoke, a White House official downplayed Biden's remark that appeared to be a call to remove Putin. And remember, NPR, they need that taxpayer funding, so we don't see a donate button here, but I bet you if we go to their page, there'll be a big donate button, and they need our money, comrade, to continue to spread communist ideals around the world. So make sure you donate. Make sure that you help them out. And pay your taxes because they need that too. They need all of our money, comrade, to make sure that they help. NPR never printing reality. Let's listen to the Houseplant-in-Chief and see what he has to say.
Never, ever give up hope. Never doubt. Never tire. Never become discouraged. Be not afraid. A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never erase a people's love for liberty. Brutality will never grind down their will to be free. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principle, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
And this is just like the Lindsey Graham thing. Like, okay, Grandpa, what are you going to do about it? No, tell me. You can come out and say, Jill, what's my line? This man, he can't remain in power. It's just like saying, the people can't remain poor. What are you going to do about it? There's got to be a solution out here. And given the amount of military action you voted for in your life, President Biden, I'm pretty sure I know what the military action you're looking for is. I can't say for sure, obviously, for obvious reasons. All I can do is look at your voting record, but this is hard stuff. Now, of course, he didn't go nearly as far as Lindsey Graham did. Lindsey Graham! He didn't go that far and say, well, I wish that somebody would go in there, sugar, and stick a knife into old Vladimir Putin and get him out and assassinate him, because we can't be doing no more of this stuff over here, sugar. The only things that should be being stuck in the guys is, that's what I talked about with my friend John McCain before he died, God rest his soul. It wasn't as outright as that, but when we look at something like this, when we look at the fact that the supporters, the Biden babies and the Biden bots are yelling for us to go and take an intervention into Ukraine, and the people have been propagandized to for 5 years that Putin is the source of all their problems. The people that are cheering for this. And the fact that the White House has come out openly and said, no, that's not what Grandpa meant. Just stop looking over here. Hey, look, a slap on TV. Go look at these people fighting with each other. That even if he didn't mean this, there's enough sentiment out there and enough unpopularity of U.S. involvement in war that they need to get in front of this and make sure. No. Let the mainstream media tell you that no, we definitely didn't mean to go and do a regime change. We definitely didn't mean that. Let's read some of the propaganda that goes along with this. Biden says Putin cannot remain in power in sweeping speech on Russian invasion of Ukraine. From Kevin Breininger. President Biden on Saturday said Russian leader Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power, ratcheting up international pressure and further uniting NATO allies against Putin over his invasion of Ukraine. A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never erase a people's love for liberty, Biden said at the end of a sweeping speech in Poland. The Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia. For free people refuse to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. For God's sakes, man, this man cannot remain in power. Come on, man. Biden has hurled invective at Putin throughout the crisis in Ukraine, labeling him as a murderous dictator and a war criminal, but has previously stopped short of calling for his removal of power. Not anymore! Not anymore. Later Saturday, a White House official attempted to clarify Biden was not discussing Putin's power in Russia or regime change, but rather was making the point that Putin cannot be allowed to exercise power over his neighbors or that region. Where's the WandaVision meme? Even though I've not seen the show WandaVision, I do understand the premise off of this, and like, come on, let's get the WandaVision. Oh wait, she doesn't have the white power symbol when she does that, does she? Oh crap. I've cancelled everybody! I did a white power hand signal. Fucking 4chan. Seriously. Later Saturday, let's see. The president's address at Royal Castle in Warsaw marked the grand finale of a 3-day trip to Europe. While in Poland, Biden met with Ukrainian refugees who had fled Russian aggression, as well as with U.S. troops stationed in Rzeszów near Ukraine's border. Which was fun. I didn't even get that article or that tweet or that picture up there. And remember how big of a deal it was that we have a Catholic president now. A truly religious man. And yet here we see our Catholic president scarfing down a pepperoni pizza on a Friday during Lent. Good job. In his speech, Biden urged democracies around the world to unify against Russia and commit a historic battle against authoritarian aggression. And yet you're not calling for a regime change war. In this battle, we need to be clear-eyed, he said. We need to steel ourselves for the long fight ahead. Biden directly and repeatedly condemned Putin throughout the speech because he's got a boogeyman, and that's the boogeyman that his followers all run to and say, oh, no, it's his fault. Accusing the Russian president of using brute force and disinformation to satisfy a craving for absolute power and control. Biden slammed Putin for invoking Nazi imagery as a pretext for an invasion, calling it an obscene lie. And he said it is Putin who's to blame for the mountain of international sanctions that are crushing Russia's economy and the currency, noting the Russian ruble has been reduced to rubble. Oh, he made a pun. Look at him. So, I mean, this, like I said at the top, this is Bush-ite stuff. Especially considering the fact that we're also talking about chemical weapons and weapons of mass destruction. I mean, change out the dementia-addled with, hey, come on, man, what, Daddy, are you proud of me yet? And this is the same kind of thing. This is the same kind of rhetoric right now. From CNN. Biden's off-the-cuff remark on Putin sends shockwaves on dramatic final day of trip from Kevin Liptak. At nearly the same moment that President Biden declared him a butcher, Vladimir Putin's missiles began falling in Lviv, Ukraine, sending back black smoke and flames billowing into the air, injuring at least 5 people. The strikes on a fuel depot pierced what had been relatively calm in the western hub city that had seen relatively little of the war that has engulfed the nation. Are you fucking kidding me? That's all we've been hearing. Oh, they're going to Lviv. They're shooting rockets at Lviv, the military installation in Lviv. Oh, shit. We got almost an inch into Poland. Hey, Poland, you better get involved in this. The target hardly seems coincidental. Biden was 250 miles away visiting Ukrainian refugees in bitter cold at Poland's National Stadium. He heard pleas from young mothers to pray for the men, husbands, fathers, and brothers they had left behind. We Ukrainian mothers are ready to strangle Putin with bare hands, said a woman whose son remained to fight. Gathering up a small girl wearing a pink coat and pigtails, Biden told her he wanted to take her home. No, he couldn't have. No, he didn't. He didn't gather up a small girl and take a sniff. There's no way his handlers let that happen. Please tell me that is false. Please tell me that's an exaggeration. When he returned to the hotel, aides briefed Biden on the strikes in Lviv. A few hours later on Saturday, propelled by heartaches and anger, Biden walked into the courtyard of an old Polish castle to declare the Russian president cannot remain in power. The very final words Biden would utter in his last-minute swing through Europe ended up being the most consequential, reverberating wildly as Air Force One departed for Washington. They surprised his aides, many of whom spent hours honing the text of the speech viewed by the White House as a significant moment for Biden's presidency. The line Biden uttered wasn't in what they wrote. Gathered backstage at the castle, White House officials hastily issued a clarification, one of several on this trip alone, to say that Biden wasn't calling for a regime change. But not before the Kremlin issued its own affronted response, saying Russia's ruler is not to be decided by Mr. Biden. On Sunday, Biden told reporters he was not calling for a regime change in his remarks, responding, "No!" to a question shouted from a reporter as he was leaving church in Washington, D.C. Asking for forgiveness for eating pepperoni on a Friday, I'm guessing. Maybe it was fish pepperoni. The admin had continued to downplay the remarks earlier on Sunday, with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying from Israel, "I think the White House made the point last night that, quite simply, President Putin cannot be empowered to wage war or engage in aggression against Ukraine or anyone else." The series of events that unfolded here Saturday afternoon placed into sharp relief the highly unsettled atmosphere that pervades Europe as Russia's invasion of Ukraine enters its second month. A display of aggression from Putin in the borderlands of Ukraine was followed by an offhanded yet forcibly delivered suggestion from Biden that Russians find another leader. No, you don't get to talk your way out of this one. And again, I gotta ask the media, and let me honestly be very clear about this. I think Hailey was asking me if I'd be saying the same thing if it was Kim Jong-un. But it's a valid question. If President Trump had said the same thing about Un, would they be saying the same thing? Or they would be yelling out and saying, warmonger, regime change? And what's the most interesting to me is that a lot of the people, especially the official capacity, who are now running out here trying to tell us that no, Biden didn't mean that, we would never do a regime change, are the same people who were hammering on Bush every time he stepped out of line. When he called for a regime change, they were the same people who protested against the wars in the Middle East, who now think it's A-okay to come back out and do a regime change in Russia. From Fox, Putin heard loud and clear a call for regime change after Biden said he cannot remain in power. Excerpt. Yeah, I'm sure he did. From Marissa Schultz. President Biden's speech on Saturday in Poland affirmed to Russian President Vladimir Putin what he already long suspected. The U.S. wants him out of power, a Russia expert told Fox News Digital. Putin heard loud and clear the call for a regime change, Rebecca Koffler, a Russian-born former Defense Intelligence Agency officer, said. Speaking on the world stage about Russia's war in Ukraine, Biden said, For God's sakes, this man cannot remain in power. Putin has long suspected that Washington was working on regime change, possibly through a color revolution to orchestrate a civil society uprising to bring about his ouster, according to Koffler. So Biden's remark at the end of his address in front of the royal castle in Warsaw confirmed Putin's suspicions, said Koffler, the author of Putin's playbook, Russia's Secret Plan to Defeat America. Shortly after Biden's speech, however, the White House denied that Biden was calling for a regime change. We'll touch on that for just a second. But given what we see from the CNN article as well, given the fact that he came up here, he made this statement first and foremost. In a war that we are not even involved in. Yes, we're providing humanitarian aid. Yes, we can have a conversation about that. But a war that we are not even involved in right now. That It's not even a conflict at this point. This is not like Afghanistan, Iraq, where there's technically not a war. But you have troop presence and troops training, contracting, and helping the people to fight. We don't have that here. With the exception of a bunch of blue-haired fucking Twitter users, we have no interest in this. And then for Biden to come up and say this, this man cannot be allowed to remain in power. And for every White House staffer to scramble and look at this and say, this wasn't in the speech, what do we do? What do we do? Kamala, what do we do? Klain, what do we do? Ron, help us, please. You're our only hope. I know the 25th is being circulated around off of this, which would bring us the first female president ever. Honk honk, installed, not elected, of course, on top of all of this. But really, honestly, right now, it's really hard for me to say these words. Because I know as the first female president, Kamala Harris has to prove that she's one of the big boys. That she can go start a war just as well as everybody else can. But I mean, this is an impeachable offense. This was impeachable under Bush, for God's sake. And the fact that, I mean, at least with Bush, the staffers all knew this. They were all playing with people's patriotism to make them believe that they actually, the people of the world actually wanted this. But this is beyond the pale. This person should be removed from office. Let him get one last sniff, for old time's sake, from the Ukrainian girl wearing a pink coat and pigtails. The desperation over here. Man, these kids smell good when they got nothing over here. Let him get one last sniff for old time's sake, and then put him out to pasture. It's time. It is time for the cabinet to look at this and say, this person with dementia has no place in this office. Let's grab one from Newsweek. Russia attacks sick Biden over Putin remark, warns of damaging relations. From Fatma Khalid. Russia on Saturday criticized comments that President Biden recently made in which he stated that President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. That is not for Biden to decide. President of Russia is not elected by Russians, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told Reuters. It's not. He's correct. Any more than it's on Russia to decide who the U.S. president is. And I know it's going to get a little... Whoa! It's just us coming out here and giving tit for tat because the Russians put their evil puppet into our White House. Whatever you believe on that. No, it's not for us to decide who is in power in Russia. The president was delivering a speech on Saturday when he took a hit at Putin in Warsaw at the Royal Castle among the ongoing war. Ukraine will be a victory, for God's sake. Okay, we've heard this 25 times already. His remarks were met with backlash from multiple officials, including Peskov, who warned that each time such personal insults narrow a window of opportunity for bilateral relations with the current U.S. administration. It is necessary to be aware of this. The Kremlin spokesperson also said that state leaders should keep their temper. Meanwhile, Russia's lower house of parliament, President Vyacheslav Volodin said, Biden is weak, sick, and unhappy. Agence France Presse reported. A White House spokesperson on Saturday clarified that Biden wasn't urging regime change in Russia, but that he meant to stress that Putin cannot be allowed to exercise his power over his neighbors in that region. But that's not what he said. That's the problem. That's not what he said. And yes, I'm sorry for everybody on Twitter who's about to come out and view this video after seeing the replay, saying, "Oh, he's sympathetic to the Russians. He must be a Russian puppet." No, the Russian people and the government, the people who elected Putin, and Putin himself have every right to be pissed off about this. Whether they turn around and make this into a retaliatory strike, I hope to God they don't. I hope to and pray to God that they don't. But if they want to come out and rattle the saber and say, "You do bad. We condemn you for this. We are not going to do regime change here." Honestly, they've got every right at this point. I'm sorry. I don't really give a fuck what you think about that. They have every single right to be pissed about this. I would be. Fuck, if somebody did this in, I don't know, what's a country that doesn't like us that has very, very little power out there? Fuck, if somebody in China, especially if it was Xi Jinping on top of that, but let's just say that Xi Jinping keeps his fucking tongue. But if some top level official in China came out and said, "It is time to take out US president. He cannot be in power." Our military would be balls deep in Beijing at this point already. It wouldn't have even taken 15 minutes to go mobilize and deploy. And Taiwan, forget about that. Xi Jinping would have a hard enough time keeping his presidential mansion. Much less the country that's the rightful rulers of China. If this had come back out on this direction and intelligence found out about it, much less if this was a worldwide broadcast speech. But, yeah, that's what we see off of that. From the Daily Wire. Chatter of the 25th Amendment erupts after Biden ramps up escalation talk on Russia. White House bats cleanup. Well, yeah, they should be talking about... I mean, this guy... They've been talking about being 25th for the beginning. Chatter concerning the possible removal of President Biden. 79 from the White House erupted online this weekend after the president on multiple occasions seemed to blurt out escalation talk regarding Russia's invasion of Ukraine, all in contrast with White House messaging. The Daily Wire highlighted that Biden's seemingly off-the-cuff remarks had to quickly be addressed and walked back by the administration. In one instance, Biden told a group of American troops in Poland that they were going to see the backbone and guts of the Ukrainian people when you're there, suggesting the U.S. was putting boots on the ground in Ukraine in contrast with White House statements and talking points. And once again, our wonderful Catholic president eating pepperoni on a Friday during Lent. The president also sparked concern when he seemed to call for a regime change in Russia, which again comes in contrast with the White House messaging. For God's sakes, this man cannot remain in power. Now Biden once again begins with some stupid stab at humor. This is so unnerving, having this man lead the free world. This isn't my political side speaking. This is objectively dangerous. And a host of other bad things, columnist and author David Limbaugh observed on Saturday. We can go back and listen to the speech again, but it doesn't sound like he was taking a stab at humor. Let's listen to this one more time.
For Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principle, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
No, don't worry. Look at the smile and the charm on his face. That was definitely a joke, you guys. Honestly, the 25th Amendment was crafted for just such a situation as we're now in with Biden, Limbaugh asserted. Yet, at least two things militate against this from happening. One, his handlers are running things anyway. Fair point. And two, Kamala Harris, though not mentally incompetent, just stupid, could be worse. I don't think she's stupid. That's a part of the problem. I don't think she's stupid. I think that she is power hungry. And is willing to do whatever she can to hold on to that power. Including, like I said, go back and start a war to prove that she's one of the big boys. Max Abrams, yesterday Biden said American troops have been fighting in Ukraine and more are headed there to fight. Today Biden said the goal of U.S. policy to Russia is regime change. Recall the media called for the 25th when Trump sipped water or walked down ramps carefully. Yeah, that sounds like the Daily Wire. Whoa, it's Trump. We got to defend him. Circle the wagons. Clint Ehrlich. Imagine President Trump had inexplicably told U.S. troops that they were deploying to fight Russia. Really imagine it. All we'd be hearing is that he's mentally unfit and must be removed under the 25th Amendment. Biden did the same thing today, but the media has his back. Yeah, but the bigger problem with Trump was the fact that he couldn't stop spending money. In spite of the fact that he lowered the amount of money that was going into the U.S. government, he couldn't stop spending fucking money. I will never sign another omnibus. By the way, I'm signing 4 more omnibuses. Fuck that dude. Now, for the most part, it seems that these people out here, the Trump worshippers, like, oh, well, you think this is bad. Imagine what this would be if this was Trump. Holy shit. Brady Leonard, who's a friend of the show, got brought back out by the Daily Wire, which I know that he's got friends in the Daily Wire because he interviews them from time to time on his podcast, but Brady Leonard. Biden's mental state isn't funny. It's extraordinarily dangerous, Brady Leonard asserted. Anytime he opens his mouth, the White House has to walk back whatever it is he just said. Shout out Brady Leonard. That is at Brady Leonard. Go give him a follow. So yes, it might be time to go back and do the 25th. It might be. But you know the people that voted for him, honk honk, can't come back out and own up to what they voted for. From the Hill. Biden's
a dictator bent on...
Shut up. Biden's Putin remark. White House walk back faces scrutiny. Because nobody's buying it. That's why it's facing scrutiny, because everybody knows you're full of shit. From Michael Schnell. President Biden's remark that President Putin cannot remain in power reverberated through Washington on Sunday, with some current and former officials and lawmakers scrutinizing the reported ad-lib, while others slammed the White House for its subsequent walkback. Review. The White House quickly tried to walk back the comment, claiming that Biden was referring to Putin exercising power, and Secretary of State Blinken affirmed that the U.S. has no plans for regime change in Moscow. You might want to tell your boss that. The forceful delivery comment, however, still attracted a fair amount of criticism, with one Republican lawmaker on Sunday imploring the president to stay on script. He gave a good speech at the end, but as you pointed out already, there was a horrendous gaffe right at the end of it. Senator James Risch of Ohio, the top Republican on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, told CNN's State of the Union, "I wish he would stay on script. Whoever wrote that speech did a good job for him, but my gosh, I wish they would keep him on script," Risch added. Rob Portman of Ohio sounded a similar note, telling NBC's Meet the Depressed that Biden's speech was very strong despite the ad-lib at the end and the gaffe at the end. The Brandon admin continued its cleanup of the matter on Sunday, with U.S. Ambassador to join NATO Julianne Smith telling CNN's State of the Union that the U.S. does not have a policy of regime change in Russia. Full stop. Now, we totally didn't have a regime change policy in Iraq either, but here we are. From CNN, This is an op-ed from Dean Obeidallah, so this is not going to be green check verified, obviously. And as usual, because it's an opinion column, the opinions of the writers do not necessarily reflect the views of CNN, and furthermore, the opinions that are expressed here on the page do not necessarily express the views of Turns and Pages Productions, Contemporary, or the host. Biden's declaration that Putin cannot remain in power was not a gaffe. Editor's note, Dean Obeidallah, a former attorney, is the host of SiriusXM's radio daily program, The Dean Obeidallah Show, and a columnist for The Daily Beast. Follow him. The opinions expressed in this commentary are his own. President Biden concluded his powerful speech this weekend in Poland about Vladimir Putin's barbaric attack on Ukraine with this line about the Russian leader. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. White House officials later sought to make it clear Biden was not calling for a regime change, but it was no gaffe. Biden is 100% correct. That didn't work as drums as much as I thought it would be. Sound those war drums, sound those war drums. Putin, whom Biden rightly called a war criminal, should not remain in power given his horrific attack on Ukraine, his role in slaughtering civilians in Syria, and his efforts to undermine Western democracies, including during the 2016 presidential campaign. Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Biden didn't hold back in what will likely be seen as a historic speech Saturday, just hours from the Ukrainian border. The president appealed directly to the Russian people, telling them, I refuse to believe that you welcome the killing of innocent children and grandparents, or that you accept hospitals, schools, maternity wards that, for God's sake, are being pummeled with Russian missiles and bombs. Biden also shared his emotional conversations with Ukrainian refugees earlier that day, recounting how he saw tears in many of the mothers' eyes as I embraced them, their young children. Yeah, he embraced their young children. And he shared the story of what they said to him as one little girl who said, Mr. President, she spoke a little English, is my brother and daddy, are they going to be okay? Will I see them again? The world has seen the horrors Putin has rained down on the people of Ukraine simply because they won't bend a knee to this brutal dictator and agree to give up the... Yeah. You've been propagandized to believe that's what's happening. I don't even believe that's what's happening, and I don't know what's happening. Because I can't see through the wall of propaganda that they're putting out here. The civilian death toll in Ukraine has exceeded 1,100 people, honk honk, including nearly 100 children, honk honk, according to the Office of UN High Commissioner for the Human Rights, but it notes actual figures are likely considerably higher. So, Obeidallah is definitely sounding the war drums here. Hey, let's go in and let's do a regime change over there. Thank you, Obeidallah. I hope that you're on the front lines. From Politico. Macron warns against escalation after Biden's criticism of Putin. And when Macron is telling you fucked up, by the way, you have fucked up. Because as we know, the color, the prominent color, the only color on the French flag is white. From Jacques Smith-Meyer. Emmanuel Macron on Sunday distanced himself from the comments by U.S. President Biden, who called Vladimir Putin a butcher who cannot remain in power. Macron told broadcaster France 3 that his focus was on helping broker a ceasefire between Kiev and Moscow, followed by a complete withdrawal of Russian troops through diplomacy. If we want to do that, we cannot escalate either in words or actions, Macron said. By the way, Macron is now the French guy from the top of the castle in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, just so you know. Biden reportedly went off script and made the remarks Saturday during a speech in Poland as the conflict moved to its second month. Yeah, we've heard all this. Macron's comments were echoed in the UK. Britain's Education Secretary, Nadhim Zahawi, who said on Sky News that it's the Russian people who should decide who leads them. I think it's up to the Russian people, Zahawi told the broadcaster when asked whether Downing Street believes Putin should leave power. But Russia's continued aggression in Ukraine, coupled with crippling sanctions from Western nations, could play a factor in who is in charge in Russia, the education secretary added. The Russian people, I think, are pretty fed up with what's happening in Ukraine. This illegal invasion, destruction of their own livelihoods, their economy is collapsing around them, and I think the Russian people will decide the fate of Putin and his cronies, he said. Regime change in Russia is not American policy, the U.S. ambassador to NATO said on Sunday. And yes, I will come back and agree with the fact that if we want to come back and talk to our Russian counterparts in an ICQ chat or on Twitter, if they're on there, if they're allowed on there through the Russian intranet or anything else, anybody that we know to come back out and rally and do a vote and pull Putin out of office in any way possible, that's on them. And just like the education secretary Zahawi said, who leads the Russian people is between Putin and the Russian people. We can offer our opinions, we can show them, hey, this sucks, maybe you should do something about it, but ultimately it comes down to the Russian people. Point blank, end of story. Do we have even more? We're still going on this topic, by the way. But I think we're just a couple articles away from done with it. We'll gloss over, I think, some of the rest of them. We'll go talk about what's happening on the ground in Kiev and Ukraine. From the New York Post. Does he get assassinated? News host ponder Putin's demise after Biden calls for ouster. From Mary Kay Ling. Biden's incendiary call for Russian President Vladimir Putin to be removed on Saturday sparked fevered speculation from cable news channels, with hosts openly wondering whether the dictator might be murdered. In terms of potential regime change, how does Putin get overthrown? Fox News host Eric Shawn asked a guest, national security analyst Rebecca Grant. Does he get assassinated? Does he get pushed out? Does he get under house arrest? Does he get told, you got to go to your dacha on Black Street for the rest of your life? Get out. How does it end? Biden closed his much anticipated speech in Warsaw by forcefully declaring, "For God's sakes, that this man cannot remain in power." Absolutely, Biden did call for regime change, Grant told Shawn. I think that's unprecedented in U.S.-Russian diplomatic history. That puts U.S.-Russia relationships in the deep freeze. But she dismissed the idea that Putin would be removed. So that is one cable news host. By the way, the New York Post made it sound like this was going to be headline upon headline upon headline, which there was. And I'm sure there are going to be more of them today, as soon as everyone gets done talking about Will Smith. But we'll watch what happens from there. A little bit more. Just some review on some other things here from the Daily Wire. Watch, Biden appears to tell U.S. troops that they're going to Ukraine. And we have video here. President Biden's team had to do damage control Friday. And then they had to go do damage control again on Saturday, after the president appeared to tell a group of U.S. soldiers in Europe that they would be getting sent to Ukraine. ABC reported that Biden raised eyebrows when he appeared to tell the group that American troops will be going to Ukraine, though he has repeatedly said he will not send troops there. Let's listen.
And you're going to see when you're there, and some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people standing in the middle of front of a damn tank, just saying, I'm not leaving. I'm holding my ground. They're incredible.
Yeah, I'm guessing his adrenochrome had worn off by that point. You're going to see it when you're there. A woman standing in front of a tank. But you're going to see it when you're there. But you've said you're not sending people. Is there something you're not telling us, Mr. President? I would not be surprised if before my birthday, which is the end of April, the last day of April, in fact, we do see a U.S. troop presence in Ukraine. I can't say that it's going to happen. I mean, I don't practice Santeria. I don't have a crystal ball. But I can look back at statistics and I can look back at the things that Senator Biden has voted for. And I can say that I wouldn't be surprised. And lastly, just a little bit of a review off of this from The Blaze. When we're talking about how horrible it is and how things got reacted to when people called for deaths. From The Blaze, Marxist Penn State associate professor wished the deaths of Donald Trump, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, and more. From Paul Saka. Because it's Glenn Beck's website, we can't go without the whataboutism. A Penn State associate professor allegedly hoped for the deaths of prominent conservative voices, including former President Trump, Jordan Peterson, and Ben Shapiro. The post-millennial editor-at-large, Andy Ngo, shared alleged screenshots of alarming tweets sent by Zach Furness, a Penn State University associate professor of communications. At the Greater Allegheny campus, Furness reportedly replied to the popular Twitter account that posts unusual moments from American politics. On March 26th, the Twitter account shared a photo of 2017 of then-President Trump tossing out paper towels to Puerto Ricans who were ravaged by Hurricane Maria. According to the screenshots posted by Ngo, Furness replied to the tweet of Trump by writing, "Should have been Lincoln 5 minutes later." Furness is referencing the assassination of President Lincoln, who was shot in the head by John Wilkes Booth in 1865. Ngo also shared a screenshot of an alleged tweet from Furness written in September of 2020 in which he hoped that several conservative commentators as well as centrist and left-leaning figures be killed. "I'd like to build an ark and fill it with Michael Tracy, Andrew Sullivan, Barry Weiss, Andy Ngo, Ian Miles Chung, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, and Fox and Friends, then launch it towards the sun," Furness wrote on September 9th, 2020. Well, this guy sounds charming, doesn't he? Tracy is a journalist and political commentator who is a member of the progressive Young Turds Network and is known for his anti-war ideology. Sullivan is a British author and writer who has written for the New York Times, The Atlantic, The Time, and Newsweek. Weiss is a left-leaning writer who previously covered culture and politics at the New York Times, until she resigned and later said the newspaper of record attempts to satisfy the narrowest of audiences. Chung is an online commentator who has written for several media outlets about gaming, culture, and politics. Peterson is a clinical psychologist and professor emeritus at the University of Toronto. Shapiro is a conservative commentator and the founder of the Daily Wire. So yes, we can't sit back here and pretend that these calls for death to people we don't agree with are anything new, especially coming out of the left. Alright, so that is what I have to say about the regime change comments. That's all that we have for that. What did we spend an hour talking just about that? And we still got more stuff to go. That's the worst part of it. Those two things completely changed the direction of both this show and KTZed Redemption for later on tonight. Because when I was at work on Saturday morning, kind of contemplating what we were going to be talking about for the night show tonight, I had a completely different program in mind. Hey, maybe we just needed a distraction from how poorly Ketanji Brown Jackson actually did versus what's going to actually happen once the vote comes in, because it does look like Manchin's going to be on board and getting her confirmed, but hey, maybe we just needed that distraction. But let's keep going. Let's go talk about what's actually happening on the ground in Ukraine. From the Associated Press, Ukraine pleads for help, says Russia wants to split the nation. From Urus Karmanow. President Volodymyr Zelensky accused the West of cowardice on Sunday, while another top official said Russia is trying to split the nation in two, like North and South Korea. Zelensky made an exasperated plea for fighter jets and tanks to help defend his country from Russia's invading troops. Russia now says its main focus is on taking control of the eastern Donbas region, an apparent pullback from its earlier, more expansive goals, but one which is raising fears of a divided Ukraine. Speaking after U.S. President Biden said in lacerating speech that Russian President Putin could not stay in power, words the White House immediately sought to downplay, Zelensky lashed out at the West's ping-pong about who and how should hand over jets and other weapons while Russian missiles attack and kill and trap civilians. I talked to the defenders of Mariupol today, and I'm in constant contact with them. Their determination, heroism, firmness are astonishing, Zelensky said in a video address, referring to the besieged southern city that has suffered some of the war's greatest deprivations and horrors. If only those who have been thinking for 31 days on how to hand over dozens of jets and tanks had 1% of courage. Zelensky also told independent Russian journalists on Sunday that his government would consider declaring neutrality and offering security guarantees to Russia, repeating earlier statements. That would include keeping Ukraine nuclear-free, he said. He told reporters that the issue of neutrality and agreeing to stay out of NATO should be put to Ukrainian voters for a referendum. Absolutely. After Russian troops' withdrawal, he said a vote could take place within a few months of the troops leaving. Russia quickly banned the interview from being published. Roskomnadzor, which regulates communications from Moscow, issued the ban, saying there would be action taken against the Russian media outlets that took part, that included those that are foreign media outlets are acting as foreign agents. Russia-based outlets appear to comply with the ban, although the interview was published abroad. Zelensky responded by saying Moscow was afraid of a relatively short conversation with journalists. It would be funny if it weren't so tragic, he said, according to the Ukrainian news outlet RBK Ukrainia. Zelensky's been doing this from the beginning, right from the start. Come on, you won't send troops over here, no balls. Do you want the world to think that you have no balls to come out and defend Ukraine? Come on, just send troops over here. Send troops, send planes. Don't be afraid, don't be pussy. And at some point, especially if we keep seeing inflammatory rhetoric like we saw out of the White House over the weekend, my big fear is that it might happen. I don't know how the fuck we got to this point, but that's my big fear right now, is that it might actually happen. From CNN. Lviv, western Ukrainian city, until now spared from Russian assault, rocked by powerful explosions. From Nathan Hodge, Julia Kasiava, and Lauren said Morehouse. At least 5 people were reportedly injured Saturday after at least 2 missile attacks struck Lviv, a city in western Ukraine that had previously spared the worst of Russia's brutal onslaught, local officials said. One of the strikes hit a fuel storage facility, causing it to catch fire, and a later strike caused significant damage to the city's infrastructure facilities, according to the city's mayor, Andrei Sadovyi. 3 powerful blasts were heard in the center of the city earlier, and plumes of thick black smoke could be seen rising in the distance. Air raid sirens rang out prior to the explosions. Maxim Kozitsky, the head of the Lviv Regional Military Admin, later on his Telegram account reported 3 more explosions following the strike in the fuel depot, saying, "The air alarm remains." Lviv is a strategic Ukrainian city close to the Polish border that has largely been spared from the relentless bombardment seen across much of the country during the Russian invasion. It was a surprising attack, coming just a day after the Russian military said the first phase of the conflict had ended and that it was shifting attention to the disputed eastern parts of Ukraine. It hasn't been spared, though. That's the problem. I know that that's where people are gathering, that's where the refugees are gathering, and that's where the supplies are coming in. But we've already talked about Lviv, or at least the military installation that's close to there, because that was what rocked the eastern part of Poland. While the warmongers were sitting over there, rubbing their hands and beating one out and saying, come on, come on, come on. Just let one piece of debris come 1 inch into Poland. Come on, we got to go to war. They've got to attack a NATO. Just one piece of debris. We'll call that an attack on a NATO country, and that's going to be it. And as the article said during the, at the beginning when we were talking about the Biden speech, do I think that this in any way at all is a coincidence, given the fact that Biden was just in Warsaw, 250 miles away, that now they're starting to show their might on the Polish border? No, you'd be out of your mind to think that. In fact, Lviv, from what I understand and what was explained to me from the beginning, was actually Poland up until very recently. From the New York Post. And I've got 2 New York Posts in a row too, by the way. Ukraine is willing to compromise on Donbass to end war, Zelensky. From Ben Kesslin. I can't believe that I'm reading this right here. Now, I didn't say see the land at the beginning. But this is what I said right from the opening, right from the outset, right from the start. Your big issue appears to be the Donbass region, where people don't even want to be a part of your country anymore. Have your diplomat go over to Moscow and say, hey, you know what? These people don't want to be here anymore. You let them come into country, free and clear, no customs. We will keep land, we will keep factories. This is industrial region. If they do not want to be part of Ukraine, they can go live in Russia. And I don't think we'd be seeing what's going on over here right now. And of course, this, given the fact that there is probably a lot more going on in Ukraine than the mainstream media has allowed us to believe, especially since they won't let us have any sort of countermeasure from places like RT and Sputnik. We can still go back and find them, but the main sources where people get their news, Twitter and Facebook, have banned those 2 outlets from coming out of there. We have no counter-narrative off of this. We can't compare the 2 sides and find the truth in the middle and in the ideas that are common between both stories. But, as presented, as I said, if everything is exactly as has been presented to me by the mainstream media, the quickest solution out of this would have been, hey, let the people that don't want to be part of the Ukraine leave. Give them $20 or something for the troubles. We'll keep the factories. We'll spread some people over there, put them in the factories. And everything will be good. Because they clearly don't want to be here. But I do feel like that there's probably something else out there that we don't know about that region, or why it is that Zelensky wanted to keep them in there, or why Moscow just wanted to have the land as well. That would have been the easiest way to do this, and now we're sitting here looking in at this. All right. From Reuters. Russia warns media, don't report interview with Ukrainian president. Russia's communications watchdog told Russian media on Sunday to refrain from reporting an interview done with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and said it had started a probe into the outlets which had interviewed the Ukrainian leader. In a short statement distributed by the watchdog on social media and posted on its website, it said a host of Russian outlets had done an interview with Zelensky. Roskomnadzor warns Russian media about the necessity of refraining from publishing its interview. It said, it did not give a reason for its warning. Because they control the media. Plain and simple. There's no free press over there. From From the New York Post. Russian soldier allegedly surrenders tank for $10,000 and Ukrainian citizenship. That was probably not a smart move. That's an old boy who's going to have a target on his back. From Ben Kesslin. A Russian soldier allegedly surrendered his tank to Ukraine, claiming his military boss's war campaign was too chaotic, and that he'd rather take up Ukrainians' offers for a resettlement than continue fighting. The soldier will eventually receive $10,000, a comfortable place to live, and a chance to apply for citizenship, if his brothers in arms don't fucking murder him first. A Ukrainian official said, "The Russians are giving up." Viktor Andrisev, Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs, recently wrote on Facebook in a post translated to English. Andrisev said Ukraine has been sending Russian soldiers SMS messages telling them how to surrender and where to hand over their military gear. "A few days ago, Misha called us," he wrote, appearing to use an alias for the Russian soldier. Misha pulled up into the tank and was the only one left in his unit, Andrisev claimed. And that's some imagery out there. I like houses with hipped roofs, by the way. I think that looks really cool. Not with the bullet holes in them, obviously, but... The rest escaped home, Ukrainian minister said. He didn't see the point of war. Misha said that there was almost no food left. Military management is chaotic and practically absent. Demoralization is colossal. So, well, Misha, good luck living the rest of your life. Because I don't see the rest of it going well for you. Again, as was pointed out in the chat, if this is all true, of course. From the New York Post. And this will be the last one here on the thing on the ground in Ukraine. Hunter Biden helped secure funds for U.S. biolab contractor in Ukraine. Emails from John Levine and Jesse O'Neill. Russia's assertion that President Biden's son Hunter was financing biological laboratories in Ukraine was based on truth, according to emails reviewed by the Post. A trove of emails on Hunter Biden's infamous laptop, the existence of which was exclusively reported by the Post on October of 2020, found that he played a role in helping a California defense contractor analyzed the killer diseases and bioweapons in Ukraine. Now, I gotta be careful about this. This is on the paper of record, but this might actually get my YouTube channel shut down. So we're gonna talk about this in just a careful light. I don't know. The Post is apparently alleging that there were bioweapons there. I've never been able to confirm or deny. Now, obviously, there are biological labs over there. That's been confirmed. They were level 2, studying diseases. Usually, if you have a weapons lab, you're doing biological 4. Now, I'd like to read the emails for myself, and I have not done so yet at this point. But I'd like to see what it is that Hunter had to say about bioweapons, and if any of this can actually be verified, because again, usually if you're doing something as dangerous as bioweapon, you're not doing it in a security level 2 lab. But interestingly enough, if this is true, and only if this is true, Wojcicki, don't ban me. If this is true, then this does change some of the U.S. involvement off of this, and once again, you know, we'll be talking about Clarence Thomas in just a little bit, and the fact that they say that he has to recuse himself because of what his wife did. Which I actually am a little bit sympathetic to that idea. I'm not going to lie. But the same people that are doing this, that are begging and demanding that Thomas either recuse himself or be impeached and removed from office entirely, are telling you it's A-okay for the commander of our U.S. military forces to not recuse himself from what's going on in Ukraine, given the fact that his son has apparently had government positions on top of energy sector positions in the Ukraine. This whole fucking thing is a mess. Entirely. Alright, so that's what we have off the ground from Ukraine. Let's look at something a little bit more domestic. From the Blaze. Not enough tabs to open this page because I started off the day with 60 fucking tabs. GOP Senator Ben Sasse calls Ketanji Brown Jackson an extraordinary person who has a deep knowledge of the law, but says he will not vote to confirm her to the Supreme Court. I'm shocked. A Republican in lockstep behind McConnell won't vote for Biden's nominee. I'm shocked. From Alex Netzberg. Ben Sasse of Nebraska has announced that he will not vote in favor of confirming Ketanji Brown Jackson to serve on the nation's high court. Judge Jackson is an extraordinary person with extraordinary American story, Sasse said in a statement. We both love this country, but we disagree on judicial philosophy, and I'm sadly unable to vote for this confirmation. Judge Jackson has impeccable credentials and a deep knowledge of the law, but every turn this week, she not only refused to claim originalism as her judicial philosophy, she refused to claim any judicial philosophy to the committee. Judge Jackson refused to embrace them or any other precise system of limits on the judicial role, the lawmaker said. Yeah, unfortunately, thanks for the nice posturing, Ben Sasse. Katie and I are going to talk a little bit more about how this week went and if our opinions have changed on Judge Jackson, but with Manchin coming forward and saying that he's going to vote yes for her, I don't see her not getting confirmed at this point, with the exception of that one Democratic senator is actually still out for a stroke. I think that is going to be the one thing that is going to get Judge Jackson blocked if that happens, as because technically they're at a 49-50 Senate right now. But we'll see. From Insider, Clarence Thomas's wife told Mark Meadows that the Biden crime family and ballot fraud co-conspirators would be living in barges off Gitmo to face military tribunals for sedition, text show. Wow, that sounds like some QAnon fucking LARPy shit. From Grace Panetta. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's wife floated an outlandish conspiracy that members of the Biden crime family and ballot fraud co-conspirators were being sent to barges off Guantanamo Bay to face military trials for sedition in newly uncovered text messages that were totally legitimately acquired with former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Virginia Thomas, the longtime conservative activist, texted Meadows in the days after the 2020 election, according to the messages obtained by House Committee investigating January 6 and reported on by the Washington Post Bob Woodward. And, oh, of course it's Bob Woodward, because why wouldn't it be Bob Woodward? By the way, since when do we take anything that Bob Woodward says at face value? And CBS News' Robert Costa. Biden crime family and ballot fraud co-conspirators, elected officials, bureaucrats, social media censorship mongers, fake stream media, reporters, etc. are being arrested and detained for ballot fraud right now and over the coming days and will be living in barges off Gitmo to face military tribunals for sedition, Thomas wrote in a message on November 5th, 2020, 2 days after the presidential election, according to the Post. Adherents of the QAnon conspiracy movement spread those and other similar conspiracy theories throughout late 2020 and early 2021, falsely claiming online that officials including Hillary Clinton and Adam Schiff have been rounded up in mass arrests, sent to Guantanamo, and executed for treason. And yet, we still have to see the people. We still have to hear from Hillary Clinton and Adam Schiff. So, this is a nothing. But this also shows, first and foremost, this is a nothing given the fact that if they were doing a complete investigation or had any real concern about this, we would have heard about this a year ago. in late March of last year already. This would have been old hat, old news. But we're looking at some things right now. We're looking at some definite changes and things that are coming up off of this, and people that could be swayed on the Supreme Court. And Democrats right now are terrified of Clarence Thomas. And they're looking for any reason to get him recused. Now, I'm going to be sympathetic to their cause. If this is actually true, then when it comes to cases involving the January 6th committee, Clarence Thomas actually should be recusing himself. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation on the ground, because some of these cases might involve his wife directly. He shouldn't possibly be off of everything having to do with this, but there is going to be conflict of interest, especially if he has to call something a something burger or a nothing burger that could somewhere down the line implicate his own wife. But I also think that Joe Biden should be forced to recuse himself from anything that's happening with the Ukraine as well, for the same reason, because of Hunter. No Biden allies, elected officials, bureaucrats, or journalists were ever sent to Guantanamo or put on trial for sedition in connection with the 2020 election. The first message Thomas sent to Meadows referenced a since-removed YouTube video from Steve Piesnik, a conspiracy theorist who has previously espoused the baseless theory that the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary was a false flag operation meant to gin up support for gun restrictions. Which I legitimately believe Sandy Hook happened. I know that some of my friends don't believe that it happened. I believe that it happened. But I do believe that there was sentiment out there, not necessarily to come out and, false flag it out there, but just a kind of a never let a good tragedy go to waste kind of thing. In another message reported by the Post, Thomas referenced popular QAnon theory that Trump had deliberately watermarked mail ballots to find potential voter fraud, which he hadn't. So that's what's going on with this. From The Hill, Thomas scrutiny intensifies after latest revelations. Yeah, they've been up his ass for years though, so this is nothing new. They can't find anything to get him on, so they gotta go after his wife. Justice Clarence Thomas faces mounting ethical questions after reports of his wife's aggressive effort to help overturn former President Trump's electoral defeat, having intensified scrutiny over the justice's refusal to step aside from cases related to the Supreme Court, before the Supreme Court. In the weeks following the 2020 election, Virginia Thomas, the justice's wife, reportedly exchanged dozens of text messages with then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows that appeared to show her strategizing over how to bypass the will of the American voters, honk honk, to install Trump for the second White House term despite his loss to President Biden, honk honk, an outcome she described as an obvious fraud and the greatest heist of our history. The latest development, reported Thursday by the Washington Post and CBS, comes a week after Ginny Thomas revealed in an interview that she had participated in the pro-Trump Stop the Steal rally that preceded the January 6th Selfie Fest. During roughly the same post-election timeframe, Clarence Thomas declined to recuse himself from numerous pro-Trump legal challenges that contest the 2020 results, and earlier this year, he cast the lone dissenting vote from a Supreme Court ruling that cleared the way for the House committee probing the January 6th Selfie Fest to obtain Trump White House records. Today's revelations mean that now, beyond any doubt, Justice Thomas must recuse from any Supreme Court cases or petitions related to the Selfie Fest or efforts to overturn the election. Gabe Roth, executive director of the left-leaning court reform advocacy group Fix the Court, said after the Thursday report. So, there it is. That black man off the plantation. Of course they hate him. From Politico, Klobuchar gets in on the action. Thomas should recuse himself from election cases, Klobuchar says. No. He shouldn't recuse himself from election cases. He should recuse himself from the Selfie Fest cases. Possibly. The more I'm seeing about this, the less sympathetic I am to it. I don't think that he should recuse himself, but I'm at least willing to hear the arguments. Like say, hey, you know what? Maybe. Let's hear your case, is where I'm at right now with it. I could possibly be swayed, but I'm not quite there. From Allie Bice. Amy Klobuchar called on Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from any 2020 election cases the court might hear after news of his wife's text came to light. Why are we still bringing cases up to this, by the way? No, seriously. There should be no cases anymore involving. As soon as Biden put his hand on the Bible and said, I swear to uphold the thing. You know? So help me. That guy up there. You could go back and decertify all 50 states tomorrow. And Biden could come out and be the president with 0 electoral votes, and it wouldn't change the fact that he's the president right now. And the only way to do anything about it would be impeach and remove the 25th Amendment, or wait until the 2024 election. You could decertify all 50 states, and it would be the case. Now, if you decertified all 50 states, there might be a case for having the representatives do the impeachment and remove, obviously. But without one of the constitutionally outlined processes, Biden is in office until he dies, or gets removed by one of the above. So I don't know why there would be any more cases coming back to the Supreme Court after this. Fix your election laws. Make sure that your people agree with them, at least to the majority that your state's constitution requires, and focus on 2022 and 2024. It was revealed last week that Clarence's wife, Ginny, discussed ways to overturn the 2020 election with the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, over text. She sent Meadows far-right conspiracy theory videos, promoted false election fraud claims, and even expressed her distaste for former Vice President Mike Pence following January 6th. Klobuchar said on Sunday that the matter is a textbook case for recusing him from these decisions. Again, I'm willing to hear your arguments. I'm not going to say right now, and I know I just said it a couple articles ago, that he should recuse himself. I'm not going to say that he absolutely has to legally recuse himself, but I'm willing to hear your arguments, at least. She also pointed out that Thomas recused himself from a case before, back in 1995, when it pertained to a school that his son attended. The entire integrity of the court is on the line here, she said on ABC's This Week, while noting, all I hear is silence from the Supreme Court right now. Klobuchar added, they had better speak out on this because you cannot have a justice hearing cases related to this election. In fact, the ethics rules that apply to all the other federal judges say that if it involves family member appearance of impartiality, they have to recuse themselves. So, if something actually comes before that involves Ginny Smith directly, again, I'm willing to hear if it's Ginny Smith directly, then yes, he would have to, but as far as the January 6th stuff, I'm willing to hear the arguments, but I'm not convinced that that's the right way to go with this. But it went farther. Ilhan Omar says that Clarence Thomas needs to be impeached over his wife's texts. Yes. Attack a strong, empowered black man. That'll go really, really well for your voters. From Julia Carbonaro. U.S. Representative from Minnesota Ilhan Omar has called for the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas to resign on Friday after evidence emerged that his wife pressed the White House former chief of staff to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Omar was elected to Congress in 2019 and is the first Somali American and the first naturalized citizen of African birth in Congress, as well as one of only 2 Muslim women to serve in Congress. She is also the first black woman to represent Minnesota. Clarence Thomas needs to be impeached? Omar wrote on Twitter, sharing a tweet that remarked that Justice Thomas, being the only justice on the court to vote no in an 8-1 decision in January of 2022 to allow the release of Trump's draft executive order authorizing the military to seize voting machines. The Supreme Court's decision to formally rejected a request from the former president to prevent the White House Select Committee from investigating the Selfie Fest on the Capitol from obtaining over 700 White House documents. Justice Thomas voted to grant Trump's request. Yes, go ahead. Throw the impeachment up. With your balance in the House in a precarious position right now. Alienate every black voter in the country. But that's what we have off of that. Alright, more stupid news. What do we still have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2. We still have 22 tabs plus rules of acquisition. But let's get this finished out. Biden proposed new minimum wage. Yeah, I've been talking for over 2 hours at this point. Biden proposed new minimum tax on wealthiest households in 2023 budget. From Tegan Finn. The Biden admin is set to propose a new minimum tax targeting the wealthiest American households in its fiscal year 2023 budget, according to a White House fact sheet. The billionaire minimum income tax plan, expected to be released Monday, would impose 20% of minimum tax rate on U.S. households worth more than $100 million. Over half the revenue would come from those at least worth $1 billion, according to the document. America's imbalanced tax code means that many millionaires and billionaires end up paying lower tax rates than middle-class workers, the document said. The proposal, which would have to be approved by Congress, would put the U.S. government on firmer financial footing, building on the progress the admin has made to reduce the deficit. Make no mistake, this is going to come back and affect you. The White House estimates that if it's enacted, the tax will reduce the deficit by about $360 billion over the next decade. With other measures, Biden's budget proposal would reduce projected budget deficits by more than $1 trillion during that period, according to another White House fact sheet. How? News of the reduction was first reported by the Associated Press. Last year, Senate Finance Committee Chair Ron Wyden unveiled a proposal that would impose a tougher tax rule for the wealthiest 700 Americans. The so-called billionaire's income tax did not make much progress because Manchin denounced it as divisive. The president's new budget, the document said, would also approve additional smart targeted investments designed to spur durable economic growth, create jobs, reduce cost pressure, and foster shared prosperity while more than fully offsetting their cost. And again, I ask you, how are you going to do this? See, the problem is the billionaire can effectively reduce his income to nothing. The more money he gets, the more he goes back and hides in assets, which rise in value. And he's already got to pay a tax on capital gains if he goes back and sells an asset to go pay off a debt or go back out and buy another asset. Wasn't it some ridiculous amount that Bezos made? like around the same as I do on paper, like his actual income, the salary that he pays himself. I think it was Bezos, where his income was actually like 35 or 40 grand, something like that. Maybe it was 60, I don't know. But that was his actual income, and then everything else that he does is just tied up in assets. He buys an asset, he buys a building, it appreciates. Occasionally sells it off to go back and pay a debt, and that's his capital gains. These people aren't going to pay this tax. But it comes back and makes you feel, well, they raised the tax on the billionaires, and yet the deficit keeps growing and growing. From the New York Post. House Republicans will subpoena Hunter Biden. From John Levine. If the GOP retakes control of Congress, Hunter Biden will be hauled before the House of Representatives and forced to reveal the identity of the big guy and address other unanswered questions about the contents of his infamous laptop, Republicans said. And they'll have a nice big floor show. And it'll look all kind of pretty. And everybody will come out and hear all the answers. And everybody who wears a red hat will say, "Oh, he did an evil thing!" And then Hunter Biden will go back to Delaware, to his mansion, and never be heard from again. My big question here is, if you haul him in front of Congress, what do you expect to happen? His father is in control of the DOJ and decides whether charges are brought or not. This is another partisan witch hunt going back and forth. Yes, Hunter did a bad thing. No, he is not going to have to answer for it ever in his life. Now, with that being said, I do hope that with all this knowledge coming back out here, that the people out there in the world, I'm not saying you people, because you people are here watching this program and you understand what's going on, but the people out there in the world, the voting public, can look at this and say, you know what, these corporate crony assholes are worthless, they're no good. And form your public opinion on them, out of which, but I mean, to sit back here and have Hunter have to sit back in front of the taxpayer-funded Congress and answer a bunch of questions that he's never, ever, ever going to have to face action for, probably never going to be put under oath for or anything, from spineless Republicans. What's the point? Seriously, what is the point? Publicize the story, publicize the emails, let the world know what's actually going on in the Biden family, and let them decide what happens at the ballot box. From Fox News. Former President Trump holds Save America rally in Georgia. And thanks, by the way, to the wonderful KTZed for coming down and getting some live action from that. There's a little bit on my page because she did it to my channel. Not a lot, because there was so much internet traffic going on in there, you couldn't get a good signal back out, especially through T-Mobile apparently. But we definitely saw some cool stuff off of this, and I caught some of the tail end of the speech as well. I had plans on Saturday night, so I couldn't sit back and watch the whole thing. But I know a lot of you guys were out watching the Ignoramus stream. It looks like we got some new subscribers over there on the YouTube side as well. So thank you guys for that. But this is from Fox, from Andrew Mark Miller. This is a shorty. Former President Trump is speaking at a rally in Commerce, Georgia on Saturday night. The rally comes as the former president has issued highly coveted endorsements in prominent Georgia races. That's it. That's the tweet. From CBS 46 out of Atlanta, former President Trump returns to Georgia for a rally ahead of the primary. From Jennifer Lifsey. Former President Trump returned to Georgia Saturday for a rally ahead of the state's May 24th primary. In Trump's push to fundamentally reshape the Republican Party, he hosted what he calls a Save America rally at the Banks County Dragway in Commerce with Governor and Senate candidates Herschel Walker and David Perdue, as well as other Republicans he's backed ahead of the state's primary on May 24th. More than 20,000 people are expected to have been in attendance. But it was the smallest rally he's ever had. So, and you know what I've looked, I don't care for the former president. And some of the people that he is endorsing and putting up, I do think are plants. Marjorie Taylor Greene comes to mind. Because there are some of them out there who just say the right thing a little bit too perfectly for me. But I'm torn on that aspect because I'm looking at what's happening with the GOP right now. And all these maniacal, devious, diabolical, warmongering fucking GOP neocon pigs are trying to come back out and say, well, without Trump, we need to go to war, we need to take Russia. The warmonger is coming back out. These people were allowed to stay in power. And I know that there are people like that are deathly afraid of the people, like, if she's legitimate, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, David Perdue, Herschel Walker, that threaten their ability to gain power and gain money off the defense contractors. I've said a lot of bad things about the former president. And one of the big reasons that I wouldn't vote for him is, the third time is because I know what it will do to the fabric of the American society. And I really don't want to have to fight rabid progressives off my fucking lawn. Who think that because I won't take their side means that I must be a rabid Trump supporter and their enemy. Really don't want to go down that route. I think that would be a bad thing. And I anticipate that if the former president is reelected, that's the position that we're going to get into. But I'm telling you right now, we need to do something about this rabid, war-loving fucking GOP, and the best thing that the former president ever did. He raised the deficit, unfortunately. He spent out his ass, unfortunately. But he made war a dirty word. He made war a very, very dirty word among GOP on-the-ground people. And the most MAGA faithful right now are isolationist. Sometimes to a fault, but are completely isolationist. And furthermore, as I look at this, and as some of the more anti-war Democrats are starting to realize what they've been conned into and duped into, some of them are joining with their unlikely allies, the MAGA people, who don't want to go to war to try to I mean, there is no sentiment for the war in Russia in the US on the ground. The politicians would sure love to see it, but there is no sentiment for the American people. And even the dumbest White House advisors right now know that if the invasion starts in Ukraine tomorrow, they can kiss the fucking midterms goodbye. Any competitiveness off at this point. Which is a thought that I enjoy. Alright, from Fox 5 Atlanta. Trump criticizes Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson during the Georgia rally. Yeah, I don't have an author given on this one. Former President Trump took aim at Supreme Court Justice nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson during his speech on Saturday night in Commerce, Georgia. Trump called Jackson untrustworthy after she declined to define the word woman during the week's confirmation hearings. The left has become so extreme, it's the worst. So extreme that we now have a justice being nominated to the Supreme Court who testified under oath that she could not say what a woman is. Trump told the crowd at a Save America rally on Saturday night. If she can't even say what a woman is, how on earth can she be trusted to say what the Constitution is? And the review, Marsha Blackburn said, "Can you provide a definition for the word woman?" "Can I provide a definition?" "No, I can't," the judge said, adding, "Not in this context, I'm not a biologist." I almost made a very, very crude joke about that, but I'm sure that my mom is watching, so I'm going to hold off on that one. Trump was put off by Jackson's comments and criticized the Democratic Party. Later in the speech, Trump said, "A party that's unwilling to admit that men and women are biologically different in defiance of all scientific and human history is a part that should not be anywhere near the levers of power in the United States." Okay, they're the worst. Matt Gaetz took to the stage. "Give us the ability to fire Nancy Pelosi and take back the majority, impeach Joe Biden, and I'm going to nominate Trump for the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives." Shut up! "We're going to nominate Donald Trump, and then we're going to impeach and remove Biden, and then we're going to impeach and remove Harris, and then the next person in line is Donald Trump, and he's going to be president again." Shut up, you moron! But let's listen.
A man who's loved in Georgia, but even more loved in the state of Florida, Matt Gaetz. Great guy. Come on, Matt.
There is no greater country than America. There is no greater president than Donald J. Trump. And if you don't mind me saying so, there is
Calvin Coolidge comes to mind, by the way.
not a better member of Congress than Marjorie Taylor Greene. Give us the ability to fire Nancy Pelosi, take back the majority, impeach Joe Biden, and I'm going to nominate Donald Trump for Speaker of the United States House of Representatives.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Well, that was interesting.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like he didn't expect that either, so. And, of course, everybody had to come out with the American First people.
A man who...
All right, shut up. All right, and that's, the rally was good. We're probably going to talk to Katie a little bit about more what happened there because, again, I didn't get to see a lot of it. I know she was directly there. Steven's probably going to talk about it a little bit this morning, which we'll be heading over there as soon as we finish off these last few articles. But from the bit that I caught out of it, it looked like it was a good speech. This is an op-ed from the New York Post. Spies who lie. 51 intelligence experts refuse to apologize for discrediting the true Hunter Biden story. From Post editorial board. There is a supposed nonpartisan group of top spies looking out for the best interests of the nation. But the 51 former intelligence officials who cast doubt on the post-Hunter Biden laptop story in a public letter really were just desperate to get Biden elected president. And more than a year later, even after their deep state sabotage has been shown again and again to be a lie, they refuse to own up to how they undermined the election. The officials, including CNN pundit and professional fabricator James Clapper, a man who was nearly charged for perjury for lying to Congress, signed a letter saying that the laptop has the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. What proof did they have? By their own admission, none. We do not know if the emails are genuine or not, the letter said. They're just suspicious. Why? Because they hurt Biden's campaign? That's evidence enough. That's true. But realistically, they're not going to apologize. They can do no wrong. They got the evil orange man out who was looking at cutting budgets for foreign agencies, who was ending wars, or trying to at least, desperately. Who didn't want to go in and invade the countries and really take out some of the need to have a spy network. Their self-interest was compromised. The CIA should be abolished anyway, but their self-interest was compromised. And you know about government officials and money. If their self-interest is compromised, this cannot be. From the Blaze. Some Kamala Harris news. Kamala Harris's new press secretary deletes over 10,000 tweets just prior to taking the job. From Carlos Garcia. So I don't know what that advertisement is for, but I like it. It's your duty to be ready. Walther. I've never owned a Walther. I've never shot a Walther. If any of you guys have shot a Walther, are they any good? The new spokesperson for Vice President Harris deleted over 10,000 tweets from her social media account just before she took on the new job. CNN reported on Wednesday that Harris had tapped Kirsten Allen as her new press secretary months after Simone Sanders left the office vacant in December in order to join MSDNC. The job has been open since then. Harris's office has been plagued with embarrassing stories that have led to staffers leaving or being fired. Allen has previously worked as the Deputy National Press Secretary and African American Media Director for Harris during her unsuccessful campaign to win the presidential nomination in 2019. According to the social media analytics tool Social Blade, Allen deleted more than 10,000 tweets in the span of a week, between January 2nd and 10th earlier this year. A spokesperson for Harris told Fox News that they had not been in contact with Allen until February, but the job had been open since December. While the tweets were swiped from her account, Allen left up some tweets that were critical of then-candidate Biden during the race for the Democratic nomination, which I'm sure is the majority of this, but I am betting that there are some tweets out there that are in the vein of cracker-ass motherfuckers who won't let us be the supreme race. Now, I haven't seen any of the tweets here, but it's interesting that there's so many people out there in the government who have to go back and delete a bunch of stuff in order to be eligible for the government. If I ever get tapped to do something government-wise, first and foremost, the answer is no. Sorry. Whoever the government official is, unless you guys push me to run for president, which I wouldn't win anyway because I'm honest and I have fiscal fucking sense. But I wouldn't delete the tweets. I would just put them out there and say, hey, you know what? This is what I think. Take it or fucking leave it. From the Hill. SEC, Musk should remain bound by deal on Twitter use. From Olafimihan Ocean. That's the name. The SEC regulator urged a federal judge to not let Tesla CEO and founder Elon Musk leave an agreement that requires his Twitter use be monitored. Reuters reported. In a court filing on Tuesday, the SEC told U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan that Musk has not met the requirements to set aside the 2018 agreement with the commission, which required attorneys to approve tweets of his that could be material to his company. Tesla and the SEC settled a lawsuit in October of 2018 after the commission accused Musk of misleading investors with a tweet that read that he could make his company private at $420 a share and that he had the funding to do so. Both parties agreed to each pay $20 million in civil fines from the settlement. When it comes to civil settlements, the deal is a deal, absent far more compelling circumstances than are presented, the commission said. The agency also urged Nathan to reject Musk's attempt to kill a subpoena that requested records concerning a Twitter poll he posted last November, in which he asked 78.7 million followers if he should sell 10% of his company's stock, according to Reuters. This comes as Musk has previously accused the agency of harassing him with roving and unbound investigations, citing it as an attempt to punish him for criticizing the government and exercising his constitutional right to free speech under the First Amendment. Absolutely is. In response, the SEC says it has the right to investigate Musk and his company, adding that Musk can oppose the subpoena by going through a subpoena enforcement action, Reuters noted. No, this is absolutely harassment. This is absolutely harassment and an attempt to kill free speech. You got your pound of flesh. Leave the guy alone. And remember, if they can investigate Elon Musk, they can investigate all of us. Keep all that in mind. Let's talk about this one here. So this is a person who works with kids. Full disclosure, I've not watched this video yet, but I know it was going and making the rounds on Friday. From Libs of TikTok, this is an adult who works with kids explaining getting gender euphoria from flirting with queer youth.
So there's definitely a different gender euphoria that comes with getting clocked by like queer youth. There was this kid that walked by my workspace today and I hadn't met them before, but we just started talking and they were like, I think I really like you. And I was like, oh, thanks. I'm glad I make a good first impression. I hadn't gotten their name yet, so I asked them. Then they asked my name. I said my name is Parker. Then they look at me and are like, can I get your pronouns? Just call me right away. And I had my pronouns up on a whiteboard behind me, so I point at it, and they were like, oh, okay. And just so, like, clearly so excited. And so I asked back. I'm like, okay, what about yours? And they were like, oh, any. And I said, okay. So there's definitely a different gender.
So, honestly, on this one, I've got to say that I need more context out of this before I condemn it. Now, she's saying queer youth. What do you mean? First off, what do you do? Like, if your pronouns are on the whiteboard behind you, are you a teacher? Because if that's the case, load up the fucking wood chipper. But I mean, is this somebody, like, this woman is obviously probably early 20s, 22, 23, maybe 24. So are you talking with, like, a 19-year-old? Is that what's going on here? I don't have enough context out of this video to come back out and say, this is a bad person. This is weird. But I need more to know. I think the allegation is that this is a teacher, and this is one of the students coming up here for this. You know, talking middle school, high school, etc. That's a possibility. But it's weird nonetheless. All right, from The Blaze. Some economic stuff. Chick-fil-A's used cooking oil will be used to make fuel. Why haven't we been doing this forever? Most of your modern diesel engines... Actually, I don't think the modern ones can. I think when they started doing DPF DOC, you needed to have a special setup to do biofuel. But most of your old diesel engines... the 7.3s, the first gen 6.0s, the 6.6 can run on regular biofuel, biodiesel, with I think just a change of the fuel filter. And I think a few of them can actually run on it without even changing the fuel filter, just on the regular fuel system setup. So why haven't we been doing this forever? From Alex Nitzberg. Used cooking oil from Chick-fil-A restaurants will be used to make fuel, according to a press release from Darling Ingredients Incorporated, which noted that DAR Pro Solutions will fetch the oil from Chick-fil-A locations in America and Canada. At Chick-fil-A, we are committed to caring, and that includes caring for others through our food and caring for our planet, the Vice President of Corporate and Social Responsibility for Chick-fil-A Incorporated, Rodney Bullard, said, according to the news release. Our innovative partnership with DAR Pro Solutions helps us be responsible stewards of the resources at our restaurants and allows us to support the future of renewable transportation fuel, all while positively influencing the communities we serve. The popular fast food chain serves up foods such as chicken sandwiches, chicken nuggets, and waffle fries. The restaurants are closed on Sundays. We admire Chick-fil-A's commitment to reducing food waste and are proud to be part of the solution that keeps food waste out of our landfills while delivering renewable fuel that reduces GHG emissions, noted Sandra Dudley, Darling Ingredients Executive Vice President, Renewables and U.S. Specialty Operations. Uh-oh. I think with all the tabs we have open... There it goes. I was going to say, I think with all the tabs open, the memory finally kicked out on us. The press release says that annually, Darling Ingredients turn hundreds of... Oh, not enough memory! Yeah, well, when you have 60 tabs open here, because that's how much the news is packed into it, you'll get that. The press release says that annually, Darling Ingredients turns hundreds of millions of pounds of used cooking oil into renewable diesel through the Diamond Green Diesel venture. The Diamond Green Diesel is estimated to produce more than 700 million gallons of renewable diesel in 2022. So, just so you're aware, a diesel engine can run on its own fuel. Or its own oil, rather. It usually involves, it basically becomes a carbureted diesel at that point. If a seal goes out in the turbo and starts pumping engine oil through the diesel engine, the heat of compression, and it goes fast too, because you're unrestricted at that point. But yes, a diesel engine can run off its own oil. It can actually run off the used cooking oil unrefined. Now, with that being said, you're not going to keep fuel injectors or a fuel pump in that diesel engine for very long if you're just using raw cooking oil off of this. But yes, once it's refined, again, why haven't we been doing this for decades? Every McDonald's, every Chick-fil-A, it's not going to eat up all the diesel engine, all the diesel fuel use that we have in the country, but at any offset that we can have off of this reduces the reliance on foreign oils. So we don't have to sit back and wonder, what's going to happen when we can't get our 4.2% of fuel from Russia and we can't drill anymore? Will this save us and bring us back down to 99 cent a gallon levels? Probably not. Will this save us a couple cents at the pump? Maybe. But that's what we see off of that. No, they don't brick, but there is a massive process to get them going again. I've seen diesels run out of fuel. They get started back up right away. It's not a big deal. It's a lot more process to get it started though, because they've got a hand pump and hand primer, and the pumps aren't in the tank like they are in a gas car. They're up on the pretty much on the engine, so you got to get it all started off of there. And no, it's not a brick if it runs out of fuel. All right, from the Hill, we gotta get out of here because Daily Ignoramus is on. Is he on today? Is Steven actually going? Let's go look in on the Daily Ignoramus. I don't even know if he's going today because I know that he was traveling. Yeah, he's going. He's talking about Chris Rock too. Let them know that we're listening. Because we like the dumb stream over here.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow.
The way he leaned forward. That's staged, man. Look at this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Look at the way he leans forward. He's like, he's setting it up. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I don't know.
Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Yeah, Steven's got the same idea that I had off of this. That definitely looks staged. All right, we will be joining Steven in just a moment here. We got to cover the last few of these here. From the Hill, Army approves reduced physical fitness standards for women and older soldiers. From Ellen Mitchell. Following a 3-year review, the Army has scrapped plans to use the same physical fitness test for all soldiers. Choosing instead to have some reduced standards to allow women and older soldiers to pass, the service announced on Wednesday. Well, that's because they're losing all their soldiers. And if you don't think between the draft tweet from the Selective Service and this, that they're planning on having some sort of big military action, and it might not necessarily be in Russia, but they're not planning to have some big military action somewhere, you need to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in the world. They want human shields to throw into the meat grinders somewhere in this world. And they keep losing their people because they either didn't get the jab or they don't pass the woke test. The decision follows a RAND-led study that found men were actually more easily passing the new, more difficult Army combat fitness test compared to women and older soldiers who were failing at noticeably higher rates. The 6-event test, developed in 2019, was an expansion from 3 events, push-ups, sit-ups, and a run, soldiers had done prior. This test is an essential part of maintaining readiness of the Army as we transform into the Army of 2030. And it's 2030 too, by the way. Like Agenda 2030. Army Secretary Christine Wormuth said in a statement announcing the changes. The revisions to the ACFT are based on data and analysis, including an independent assessment required by Congress. We will continue to assess our implementation of the test to ensure it is fair and achieves our goal of strengthening the Army's fitness culture. So, there you go. Reduced readiness for the U.S. military. So this was interesting. Ambitious plans unveiled for a libertarian city in the metaverse. From Jackie Palumbo. One of the most prominent architecture firms in the world is designing a new metaverse, a virtual city that hopes to be a libertarian utopia. Zaha Hadid Architects has revealed renderings of the cyber-urban Liberland metaverse, a small virtual city made of futuristic curving buildings in the architectural style that has made the late architects firm famous. When complete, it will offer users the ability to traverse the hub as an avatar and feature a City Hall collaborative working spaces, shops, business incubators, and a gallery for NFT art shows. The community it hopes to foster will have a focus on self-governance as well as fewer rules and regulations. Those ideals are based on the so-called Free Republic of Liberland, a real-life micronation founded by the Czech politician Vít Jedlička in 2015 with a goal to implement small government and libertarian values. Wedged between Serbia and Croatia, the 2.7-mile territory, which is larger than the Vatican and Monaco, is a disputed land and claimed by neither country. Since its founding, no one has moved to Liberland, which lacks any infrastructure, nor has... Oh my god. Did they just come out and say that there are no roads? Holy shit. They criticized Liberland for not having roads. The meme is complete, folks. Oh, jeez. Wow. Oh my god. Nor has construction started in earnest, but it does have 7,000 approved residents and 700,000 applications, according to Jedlicka, who told CNN in an email. The micronation also has a national flag, anthem, and currency, the cryptocurrency Liberland Merit. I'm cringing so hard right now. It's like all the bad ideas of the LP coming into one Iron Curtain piece of land that's less than 3 miles long. Oh my god. I know they want to go back and do it in the metaverse too. I'm done. Some cinema news for you. Top donors threaten to cut off funding to cinema. The donors said they will support a primary challenge and demanded the senator refund their contributions. From Holly Otterbein. A group of big dollar donors who have spent millions electing Kyrsten Sinema and other Democratic senators threatened to sever all funding to her due to her opposition to changing Senate rules in order to pass voting rights legislation. Please, dear God, I need the entertainment for 20... when is she up? Sinema is a member of the U.S. Senate from Arizona. She assumed office on January 3rd, 2019. Her current term ends in 2025. Yes, please, in 24, in the middle of one of the most contentious presidential elections that I predict is ever going to be in history, please, primary Kyrsten Sinema from the left in Arizona. I need that entertainment injected directly into my veins. That is the dumbest idea that I think I have ever heard coming from the Democratic Party. And now I need to see this. I need to watch this happen. Oh, pretty please. Oh, pretty please. In a letter to the Arizona lawmaker, which was first obtained by Politico, 70 Democratic donors, some of whom gave Sinema's 2018 campaign the maximum contribution allowed by law, said they would support a primary challenge to Sinema and demanded that she refund their contributions to her campaign if she didn't change her position. Sinema nevertheless voted Wednesday night against weakening the filibuster to pass elections and voting reform. We're terrified about our prospects as a democracy if we do not pass the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Looting Voting Rights Act, the donors wrote in the 1,400-word missive. We appreciate your support of these bills, but they will die without your action on the Senate rules. Bipartisanship only works if it's reciprocal. Republicans are gutting our electoral system in state capitals with no federal check on them because it's unconstitutional. This is life and death important to us. Humanity. They won't pass the unconstitutional voting rights bills. Oh no, it's life and death to us. Please primary her from the left. And I don't even like Kyrsten Sinema. I just need to have that entertainment. Find somebody further to the left in Kyrsten Sinema. No, actually further to the left in Kyrsten Sinema. Not just what she does for filibuster reform. Somebody who is actually further to the left in Sinema and run that person. In Arizona. All right, from the Blaze. Here we go again. Racist note in school restroom, which led to campus protests, reportedly written by a student of color. From Dave Urbanski. Yet another racist note was discovered in a school earlier this month, this time in a restroom in Our Lady of Mercy School for Young Women in upstate. Didn't we do this one already? This is another one in spite of what was scrolled into the water fountain, because that's where that happened too. With the water fountain one was Our Lady of Mercy School for Young Women in upstate. And yet again, another student of color reportedly wrote the racist sentiment, which included the N-word. The graffiti, which read, "This school is filled with a bunch of N-word, get out or else," was discovered in a school restroom on March 7th. WHEC TV reported. Iglesias shared an image of the graffiti on Twitter and added, "My inbox was flooded today from an OLMHS girls. This note was written in the bathroom and they had issues with how the admin dealt with it. Many athletes, all white, begged me to post it because they were so upset at how trivial the school made it." WHEC said the students protested outside the school on the morning of March 8th. Well, on March 10th, the school announced that an investigation into the incident culminated with the student coming forward and taking responsibility for writing the racist message, the station said. And while the school said the maximum disciplinary action has been taken, the powers didn't name the culprit, WHEC said, but unlike other schools that have faced similar situations, it's apparently not saying anything about the student's race. So, it doesn't say that it was a black girl that did it. Unless I'm missing something out of this article. I see no evidence of the fact that it was written by a student of color. By the information that the Blaze has put out in front of me, obviously. Now, the police station and the school may have different information in front of me, but by the information put in front of me, I see no evidence that this was a little black girl that wrote this. And I just skimmed through the rest of it to see if they had anything. No word about it. So I'm not actually going to come back out and say, yeah, you know what, we're going to say anything off of this one here from the Daily Wire. From the Daily Wire, Pelosi's husband buys $2 million worth of Tesla stock as Democrats call for more green energy spending. I may or may not be looking into buying Tesla stock right now, just so you know. Amid Democrats pushing for higher levels of green energy spending, the husband of House Speaker Pelosi bought 2,500 shares of Tesla stock, according to recent congressional findings. Paul Pelosi purchased the shares last Thursday, and the filings were published on Monday. He paid $500 a share, or $2.18 million at the time of purchase. Shares rose to 872 by the end of that day. Since executing the trade, shares of the electric vehicle and clean energy company surged about 19%, reaching 1,036 at one point. So Pelosi just got fucking rich again. Pelosi and her husband, a multimillionaire who runs a venture capital firm in San Francisco, purchased millions of dollars in call options after defending the rights of congressmen to trade stocks, the Daily Wire reported. The lawmaker said in December of 2021 that lawmakers should be able to participate in stock trading after Business Insider released a report finding that 57 members of Congress and at least 182 well-paid staffers filed stock trades in 2020 and 2021. After pushback on a bipartisan level, Pelosi changed her position months later on stock trading for members of Congress. Pelosi said she would not block a ban, noting, "We have something to do. We have to do something to deter something that we see as a problem. But it's a competence issue. And that's what the members want to do. And then that's what we'll do." From The Blaze. Angry parents reads sexually charged passage from high school library book to school board. Board member cuts her off, saying children could be listening. Pretty positive that's the point. From Dave Urbanski. An angry parent read a sexually charged passage from a high school library book to a Georgia public school Thursday, making the point that the book's contents is inappropriate for students. But upon hearing the parent read the steamy words from Homegoing, a Cherokee County school board member cut off the angry parent. Well, PJ Media reported that the board member, Patsy Jordan, said it was inappropriate for the parents to read the passage since the meeting was being streamed online and children could be watching and listening. Let's watch.
It's a crime to distribute obscene materials to children. However, there's a loophole in it. If it's in a school library, it's acceptable in the name of education. I also know you all have the choice on how to implement that law. If anyone in this room gave one of these books that she's talking about to a child, you would go to prison. Why are you then putting them in our libraries? I emailed you all some examples of these books, and your emails actually bounced back because the content was so vulgar. I can't send it to you, but you can then give it to my children. This is the current appeals process for the books. Step 1, get over the shock of your child reading some of these things in your books that say, I can't actually say them, but it's literally the worst vulgar word that you could think of. Even see you next Tuesday's in there. Step 2, contact the principal. Step 3, complete a long form giving exact details of what you find in this disturbing book. Step 4, you send it to the appeals group. Step 5, it's a 3-week review process. The current wait time is November. Step 6, the book is pulled from the libraries to review. If it's in the holding line until November, it stays there for all the other kids to read. Step 7, yes, they do use our tax money to buy a copy of the book for each of the 20 people on the committee. Step 8, if one person in the committee thinks that it should stay, it does. Like the one child that's on the appeals committee who said the book Homegoing must stay because it's on their AP required reading list. Here's an excerpt, and I'm going to really try to be careful so I don't get kicked out. Excited now, he pushed into her. As she squeezed her eyes as tightly as she could, her tongue circled her lips. He pushed harder, his breath heavy and labored. She scratched his back, and he cried out. She bit his ear and pulled his hair. There's a lot more to it. It's 50 Shades of Grey and CCSD. Step 9, then they give the verdict and pull all those copies that we bought back on the shelves of more schools.
Excuse
yes,
me.
You are right.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We have children at home.
I
That's live
understand.
streaming, and it's really not appropriate.
Don't you find the irony in that? You're exactly saying exactly what I'm telling you. You're giving it to our children.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I see the irony in that. So, absolutely. We're going to give these books to your children and require them to read for an AP class. But you can't read the excerpts off this because children might be reading or might be listening. From NBC. Taliban orders girls' high school shut despite pledges, leaving students in tears. I need a shocked Pikachu face. Coming to NBC by Reuters. The Taliban on Wednesday backtracked on its announcement that high schools would open for girls, saying they would remain closed until a plan was drawn up in accordance with Islamic law for them to reopen. Teachers and students from 3 high schools around the capital, Kabul, said girls had returned in excitement to campuses on Wednesday morning, but were ordered to go home. They said many students left in tears. Well, no. And of course, the Taliban is out there. And of course, this is out there to gin up the sentiment and tell all the American progressives that we need to go back because they're abusing women. And it's horrible. And it's terrible. But realistically, and in full reality off of this, we all knew this was going to happen. We all knew that the Islamist sect that was emboldened by the fact that we reneged on our original deal to get out of that country. We're going to come out and reduce their children to being able to read to the 6th grade level so they could read the Quran and they could read a recipe for their husbands. This is barely newsworthy, but I wanted to cover on it and touch on it just to let you guys know what's going on with this. From Insider, Home Depot says Canadian worksheet on unpacking privilege was authorized after conservatives accused company of going woke. From Ain Kane, the Home Depot addressed on Wednesday a worksheet defining privilege circulating on social media, noting that the material was an unauthorized document from the retailer's Canadian division. A day earlier, the Libs of TikTok account, an anonymous Twitter handle devoted to mocking liberals, tweeted out a picture of the Home Depot branded worksheet about unpacking privilege, saying the home improvement company had gone woke. And this is out of Canada here. Privilege, a noun, a special benefit or advantage that may be earned or unearned. Social privilege, special unearned advantage or entitlement, used to one's own benefit or to the detriment of others. These groups can be advantaged based on social class, age, disability, ethnic or racial category, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, and religion. White privilege, societal privileges that benefit white people beyond what is commonly experienced by people of color and under the same social, political, and economic circumstances. Let's see, if you're confident the police exist to protect you, you have white privilege. If growing up, college was an expectation of you, not a dream, you have class privilege. If you can expect time off from work to celebrate your religious holidays, you have Christian privilege. If you can use public bathrooms without stares, fear, or anxiety, you have cisgender privilege. You don't have to worry about how to get into a store, you have ableist privilege. If you don't have to explain that your spouse is of the same gender, you have straight privilege. And then, of course, check your privilege. The sniping at Home Depot earned a backlash of its own. Many commentators saw no issue with the company internally sharing guidelines around fostering tolerance and empathy in the workplace. But a rep for the home improvement retailer told Insider that the printed material was not an official in-house training material. The worksheet came from the Canadian division. According to the rep, they said it was never featured in any company-wide trainings and did not receive approval from Home Depot's department around corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm guessing that was on the road to being implemented. Somebody leaked it out, and now there's like, no, we never wanted to do that. What are you talking about? I need another shocked Pikachu face. States pocketed millions in COVID relief cash for pet projects. Oh! From Houston Keene. President Biden's signature legislation, the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, allocated $350 billion to assist struggling localities and states get through the pandemic. Instead, some states use hundreds of millions of dollars in COVID relief money for pet projects. Broward dropped $140 million in American tax dollars in the new 29-story luxury hotel overlooking the Atlantic, with 800 rooms and 11,000-foot spa. Broward officials defended their use of the money to build a hotel that would be owned by the county but run by a private management group. Look, here's the reality of this. Was that a proper use of the money? No. And the taxpayers of Broward County, by the way, should be out there with torches and pitchforks. But realistically, in counties, especially in Florida, where they didn't have a lot of lockdowns, they didn't have a lot of need for these big funds out there. A lot, well, not Broward, obviously, because it's a very, very left-leaning county, but a lot of especially more conservative counties across the Midwest, Iowa, the Dakotas, Missouri to an extent, try to give the money back and say, we don't need it, and they were told, you can't give the money back. Just use it. Now, this use of the taxpayer funds redistributed around the country was wrong. It absolutely was. But it was being encouraged by the people who were writing the check. So that is something that we need to keep in mind with this. That it's not just the fact that, oh, well, this kind of use of this money was wrong. Well, they were told by the government to do it that way. So if we need to look at the criticism of this, it's time to look at the federal government first, who authorized this entire thing in the first place. Sight unseen, without asking questions, like, oh, nope, we're just going to give out the money. Not even assess who needs the money, we're just going to give the shit away. Instead of doing on an individual, apply, if needed, basis. Like the Paycheck Protection Program, which actually it was, I believe, if I remember correctly. But all this should have been, the counties that needed the money should have been able to apply for it. And of course, you'd see places like New York City, the counties that encompass that, probably Nassau County in Massachusetts, places like that, and Dane County here in Wisconsin, beg for that money and apply every chance that they could. All right. After, what have we been at this now? For 3 hours? After 3 hours and 4 minutes, the last article. And then we'll do rule of acquisition. I believe we're on 63. And head out of here for the day. So, from the Blaze. A whopping 68% of U.S. adults do not think colleges should be allowed to use race as an admission factor, according to a poll. I agree with that. I'm right on board. With blind admission, the school and the student's name blocked out. As the college review boards go back and look, they can only see the academics, the transcripts there, and the extracurriculars. They can't see the name because there might be an ethnic name off of this. They can't see the neighborhood. They can't see the school district. They just see the transcripts. I am okay with this. A recent Grinnell College national poll found that 68% of U.S. adults do not believe that colleges should be able to consider an individual's race as a factor when making the admissions decisions, just like 27% think institutions of higher learning should be permitted to consider race. In order to expand access to college for racial minorities, do you think a college or university should not be allowed to take a person's race into account when deciding whether to admit that person as a student? The poll asked. A majority of both white and non-white respondents resoundingly rejected the idea that colleges should be able to use race as a factor in admissions decisions. 69% of white respondents, 68% of non-white respondents said considering race should not be permitted, while 26% of white respondents and 29% of non-white respondents said it should be permitted. According to Pew, a survey of U.S. adults in early 2019 found that 73% thought that race or ethnicity should not be a factor in college admissions, while 19% thought it should be a minor consideration, and 7% indicated it should be a major factor. And the unfortunate side of it is, and this has nothing to do with the IQ thing, and I know that, like, when I get onto a Discord chat later, Seawall's going to start spewing the IQ idea off of this. But having nothing to do with this, just looking at the cultures of things. If we do implement this, unfortunately, when we go back and look at transcripts, because of the way that the cultures treat academic success among their children, we are going to see a vastly disproportionate amount of Asian and Jewish students making and taking the top spots in colleges, followed by whites. Those are going to be, well, whites obviously by percentage of the U.S. population, but that's where it's going to be, because those two cultures push academic performance above all other value in their children. But the people who worked hardest for this should have the first opportunity to get it as well. It should all be merit-based. It should always be merit-based. But as far as will anything change at colleges? No, probably not. The poll was probably moot. And with that, we're out of here, so we're going to take a look at one of the rules of acquisition and head over and check out the Daily Ignoramus. So, as we always do on Monday, we check in with the beta canon fandom of the Ferengi rules of acquisition. Last week, what were we at last week? I think we did 60 because we talked about keep your lies consistent. So we did the 60th rule of acquisition last week, keep your lies consistent, and we talked a little bit about Bill Clinton too. Stick with your lie. But when we're headed out of here today, we will look at the 62nd rule of acquisition. There's no 61st rule of acquisition in beta canon that is listed, so we will look at the 62nd. The riskier the road, the greater the profit. This comes from Rules of Acquisition, the DS9 episode, so this is alpha canon on top of it. Now, some of this looks into some of the stuff, and I could actually use this to go back and argue the drug war, honestly. The more risk you have in getting a product out to the people. Let's look at something completely legitimate. The poisonous pufferfish that's served in Japan. That's a good example of that. The riskier the road, the greater the profit. You have got to train and teach. There's a certain kind of pufferfish that's served in Japan, but the chefs have to be trained and taught in a certain way, because if it is prepared the wrong way, even just a little bit, this pufferfish is extremely lethal. Insanely lethal. And obviously, it's much more expensive as well. Sushi is another good example of that. Not just necessarily the pufferfish, but sushi in general. Most types of raw fish, if improperly handled, will at least give you food poisoning, but could possibly kill you as well. So there's a great training to make sure that these types of fish are prepared in a proper manner, in the correct manner, so that they're safe to eat. But even coming back down into the drug war too, if you think that distributing an illicit substance to other people could wind you dead, in a jail cell for the rest of your life, or have your people who are addicted come back and attack you, that is a great risk. It's part of the reason drugs are so unbelievably expensive. Now, if you end the drug war, you take some of that risk out and you're going to bring some of the cost back up out of that. But part of the game with that is the cost of doing business. So yes, the riskier the reward. It's, moonshiners back in the day. Moonshine was obviously more expensive than regular off-the-shelf liquor because you had to throw in the fuel and the risk of getting caught with it going around there. Anything that has risk, it's going to be harder to do, and it's going to demand a higher price. And there are people who are specialized in doing risky things. So that is definitely something to watch, something to go with off of that. And yes, maybe look into taking some of these bigger risks. You might lose everything, but you might get a bigger reward as well. So definitely go in to look at that. I'm not advocating go out and sell drugs, but look into something. Maybe take a chance on that riskier stock, that one that's going to come back out when you put in your retirement fund. Maybe take a chance on that one coin that looks like it's not going to be worth anything, like Doge. Or you might wind up with it like Shibu, where just the bottom drops out of it and you lose 15 bucks off the thing. There's always better profit in taking a bigger risk, because people are willing to let you take the risk instead of taking it themselves. So the riskier the road, the greater the profit is. And with that, we are going to head out of here for the day. I must have restarted my computer because I have no outro music up. Actually, I know I restarted my computer. I don't remember why, but no, that's right, because I was trying to get Fallout 3 to work, which I did finally wind up getting that to work. But we're going to head out of here today. Get rid of the dueling music over here and head out. So thanks everybody who stuck by in the long haul here. 3 hours and what are we at? 3 hours and 13 minutes for Contemporary. We have had a lot. So if you're on Twitch, stick around. We're going to raid the dumb stream. Go over and see our friend Steven Ignoramus. It's been quite a journey. We had a lot to go over today, and like I said, up until the slap and the announcement of the regime change, I had a lot shorter show planned than this. Hopefully this won't extend out into KTZed Redemption, because we've got to make sure that KTZed can get out and that Mr. Zed can get fed. So we're not going to spend 3 hours on that, but thank you guys for sticking around with me throughout the rest of the program here. Stick around again on Twitch if you're here. We're going to go see Steven, and we will see you here tonight, 5:30 Central Time for KTZed Redemption. Otherwise, tomorrow morning for more news and more headlines. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.